My fellow Americans, it is my great honor and privilege to say, alongside all of you, Joy Reid, you're fired. Get out. What a nasty person, right? It couldn't have happened to a nastier person, and she's an ugly person, too. She's an ugly person, one of the ugliest people, both inside and out. Joy Reid is so ugly, she makes Rosie O'Donnell look like Cleopatra. And I knew Cleopatra very well. She did a tremendous job in ancient Egypt. What a fantastic leader. But Joy Reid has been fired, and now we can officially retire the Joy Reid safety goggles. Prolonged exposure to Joy Reid can cause retinal damage, itching and burning of the skin or face, explosive diarrhea like Stacey Abrams after Pizza Hut, and projectile vomiting. We don't want that to happen, but now Joy Reid has been fired. Her ratings went down faster than Mitch McConnell on a flight of stairs, and just like Cocaine Mitch, she's fallen and she can't get up. And now we know that the hogs over there on The View, we call them hogs, we call it the zoo, they may be looking for a new cow, right? You look at her, Joy Reid, can she fill that void? You look at her, you say, boy, she could definitely fill it. That much I can tell you, she could definitely fill it. So she may be joining the zoo as the newest cow on the farm. We'll see what happens. But it was the beginning of the end when Joy Reid decided to steal my haircut. She thought she could wear it better than me. That was her biggest mistake. Nobody wears that hair better than I do. And now she's out. That's the end of that era at MSNBC. As we promised, we would be entering a golden age of America after our beautiful election victory in November of 2024. And the golden age officially starts with the firing of Joy Reid. She's out. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. The winning continues, and nobody is getting tired of it, believe me.
Always along for the ride. We ride down to the creek by the water. I've been barefoot by the preacher's daughter. Lucky for me, no, he never caught us. So, oh, we ride to the bar by 1185, jacked up square by Chevy, blanket in the back when it gets hot and heavy. Oh, we ride. Head up to the floor, boy, she begging for more, sipping on apple pie. Moonshine, I'll be gone by the morning light. Yeah, 'cause I've been on the right few songs, living and leaving and getting too stoned. Finding a pistol by my side, there was always a long for the ride. We ride across state lines, rubbing two nickels, just trying to make it down. It's hard to make a living while the gas is so high. Oh, we ride like a holly on a two-lane Palomino across plane dropped down four-wheel drive on a Friday night. Like an open coat was like, oh, pushing through the hard love, looking for my beautiful, need a bigger night. But that's all right, 'cause I'm running every red light. Yeah, 'cause I've been on the right too long, looking at leaving and getting too strong. Finding a pistol by my side, there was always a light. There was always a lot of goodbye. You've been on the right too long, leaving pistol by my side. There was always a lot of goodbye.
What's up, guys? Get some people up here. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
All right, Miss Kimberly, how are you tonight?
Oh, it just snuck up on me a little bit, but that's all right. I'm gonna make it work.
In a good way or a bad way?
Oh, work was just really super busy. The pesky
Uh,
job thing.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. But I'm home now, and I'm in Civics with America Mission.
There we go. And we are going to actually listen to Constitution Alive tonight because they do a really great episode all about the Bill of Rights since we're going to be talking about the amendments tonight.
That's awesome. Yeah. And previously I actually hosted some classes for them. So yeah, I'm absolutely familiar with their curriculum, and yeah, I can attest to it. Yeah, you have my endorsement there. Not that you needed it, but I, I'm just saying I can speak to how good it is.
Yeah, it definitely is one of my favorite programs for this kind of stuff.
And the Bill of Rights are amendments 4 through 8, correct?
No, that's the first 10 amendments. That was my understanding. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments, but we're going to find out.
Hmm. What else has been going on? Well, I can tell you what else has been going on with me. I've been trying to book. I had one slot come open next month, so I'm trying to fill it. That's what I've been doing.
Oh, nice. Um, let's see. Well, what happened today in the land of winning? Does anybody know?
Maybe we're getting closer to a deal on Russia Ukraine.
So I heard that. I heard that they had accepted the minerals deal. But I also heard, and this was Alpha put this out, that they're going to be flooding us with information to try and trip us up. So because they're going to be like disclosing a bunch of stuff to kind of like put noise out there so that they can't get things done. I also saw where like I'm not sure about this budget bill. Like I've heard mixed reviews about it, so and that's concerning.
Have they voted on it yet? Has the
I
House
don't.
voted on it yet? Because
I think maybe once. Um, well, I don't know because I just saw like a brief press conference where Scalise was yelling about how uh, they didn't have Medicaid in it and that the Democrats were lying. So I guess they're
that's on.
doing their same old tactic of, you know, Oh, it's going to wipe out Medicare. It's going to wipe out Medicaid. It's going to wipe out Social Security. There's their typical arguments.
I mean, they cling to that stuff like religion. At this point, these people are just incapable of. They've got a script and they have to stick to it. And boy, they cling to it like the Bible. Like they cling to it like we cling to guns in the Bible here.
I got
That's
tied up in news break and getting notifications, and one of them was, "Oh, they're screaming they're going to lose Medicaid, the world's going to end," and blah blah blah. So I was like, "Okay, well, I just go look at the bill myself." And no, it doesn't mention Medicaid. And the deal is the 800 billion. They think that there's no way that they're going to be able to make enough cuts without touching Medicaid. And I said, even if they do touch Medicaid, you know how much administrative crap is in there? They're not going to touch people's benefits. Chill out.
yeah, it's like and again, it's just like with the whole services thing, right? Like it's like they didn't shut down anything that was critical. They're just simply trying to trim the fat. And I mean, I guess that we should expect there to be, because things have been a little too easy because we kind of caught them on their back foot. But they are, reorganizing, and they are going to come up with some kind of plan to tank us, the whole country.
Agreed. And they're not just going to take that beating they got lying down and suddenly turn around. It's not going to be that easy.
Well, with the 22% approval rating, they're in the toilet right now. So not looking good for the Dems.
Their donations are just going down. I mean, they're just minuscule now because all their, supporters are upset. And of course, they probably not get money from USAID anymore. So
Other
Hey, Adam,
things that happened. Other things that happened are Tulsi Gabbard's going after all the NSA sex chat people. So
Oh, that was so weird.
let me accept this co-host. Yeah, so apparently she tweeted out she was going to send a memo, and then someone else put out a tweet, and then she responded like, all right, the memo's already been sent, they've been identified, and there's action being taken. So she's on it. Cash and Dan Bongino are reportedly going to go after James Comey's effort in 2016 to investigate the Trump campaign. So that's happening. Lots going on. Everyone's freaking out about the Epstein files. Everyone wants to see them, but I mean, last I heard is they're still sitting on Pam Bondi's desk, so I don't know.
oh, and did you hear that FBI that or whatever they're destroying files and like that? And I shared that because
Yeah.
it's like Benny Johnson came out with that, and I'm like, boy, this does sound familiar. When we couldn't find the raw videos to put out, want to put out in J6, the committee. Oh wait, they're all deleted. Can't find them.
Yeah, well, Benny had on that FBI whistleblower, Garrett O'Boyle, I think his name is, and he came out with that like during his interview on the show, and then later in the day, what's his name, Michael Schellenberger,
Yep, that's it.
he tweeted out about this like all this crazy stuff going on, and it was Garrett O'Boyle that was his source. So I mean, it was kind of interesting to see if it was the same kind of thing.
Well, I heard, over the weekend or yesterday that there was big stuff going on at the CIA where, like, I guess people on the 7th floor were just destroying everything, or I don't know, but this is the scary part, right? Like, this is the part where we know that we've got a caged animal, or it's backed into a corner, and it still has access to all the viruses and all the stuff. So I feel like it's like almost like we should shut down the government and shut down everybody's access to everything.
I mean, I agree with you on the caged animal thing. I'm really getting more and more of a sense that they are backed into a freaking corner and that they don't know it's like their whole party is just collapsing. Like it's somebody mentioned earlier, like 21 or 22% approval rating, like that's bad. And then did you see the Nick Sorter stuff about Swalwell today? that stuff, that
I
video was
didn't
crazy.
I didn't get a chance to dig into it, but what happened with that?
So the sorter, I guess, was with Flora Loomer or somebody on her team. They ended up at a restaurant where they were sitting at a table right next to Eric Swalwell, who was being wooed by a bunch of lobbyists, and they were getting him real drunk. And so he was just like hammered and telling them stories and saying like, and Nick recorded all the audio, and he was saying all these things like how he abused certain committees for certain reasons, and how he was bored sleeping with his wife and he only wanted to bang tens now, and like all this, you know, went on and on and on. And you know, and then Nick released part of the video that he didn't release the whole hour, but he released part of the video where he's following him around saying like, do you think that sleeping with Fang Fang was more of a national security threat than Doge? And like, he just, you can tell that Swalwell's hammered and just going to get in the backseat of a car to take him home, and he just doesn't answer. But so that was kind of a wild thing to see today.
I mean, the fact that he even got hammered is, you know, I mean, at this point, everybody needs to start sort of like, if now I think Swalwell is a piece of shit, but you got to be stupid to put yourself in that public situation where you don't have all your facilities about you when you know that they are coming for you.
Hold on, I just pulled up the tweet. I'll just read some excerpts from it. So I sat next to a drunk Swalwell at dinner for 90 minutes. He was immediately compromised by a group of lobbyists he'd just met, spilling intimate details about his job and asking for help cheating on his wife. This is Nick Sorter's words. Massive security threat. This guy should have his clearance revoked. He spent his dinner bragging about orgies on Capitol Hill, telling him that he's bored on his wife and only wants to fuck tens. Worse, he spoke about abusing his power on the House Intel Committee, which he's since been booted off of, saying he pushed it to subpoena Ivanka Trump because she's hot as F. And so Nick goes on to say, like, the guy must be removed from Homeland Security Committee. He cannot keep his freaking mouth shut, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, like, yeah, how, what does he do? What is Swalwell doing?
I mean, I feel like we need to put all moderate Democrats on these committees. I don't think him or Schiff should be allowed on any committees.
Well, yeah, I think Schiff's in a lot of trouble.
I mean, these people.
When I heard about Dan Bongino, I was like, oh my god, like he's literally written books on Russiagate and all the and the Ukraine, and like, I mean he knows a lot about what's going on. I can't wait. I'm here for it. Although I am curious, I didn't see his radio show. I didn't hear like what the plans are. I know he's still doing his regular show. He said briefly that like he's still, you know, in a contract, and he can't just like break his contract, and that they're switching over the company to his wife to be the president of the company. So I don't know like how long that's going to take before Dan can get started. So we'll see.
Hey guys, talking about Eric Swalwell and Nick Sorter. It was a 90-minute recording. He sent it to Speaker Johnson.
Oh,
I hadn't
please
seen
let
that.
us,
Yeah.
censor them. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we should remove him. He did way worse than anything George Santos did.
Yeah, because Nick says, how can somebody like this be on the Homeland Security Committee, which is terrifying.
Well, I watched him friggin', well, I didn't watch all of it, but the other day he was in his car bitching about something for like 8 minutes. I'm like, I mean, and it's just him sitting there talking about the Republicans, and I'm like, this guy is such a douche.
Wouldn't even let him near home security, let alone Homeland Security. You can't keep Chinese spies out of his house, you know, for God's sake.
Yeah, these men are so weak, and just, I mean, he is the epitome of a total dirtbag.
I would love to see him, Adam Schiff, Jamie Raskin go. But this honeypot thing's been around since the beginning of spying, you know, so I can't imagine what he said because he's very loose lips, obviously, and doesn't understand. I mean, Nancy Pelosi kept him on that committee even after the Fang Fang thing. So I guess he feels like he's protected. But I'm hoping something happens because he terrifies me. He's been around lobbyists for how many years now? He should understand how to protect himself. But talking about orgies, God, DC is just I don't even have
We
a
need
Yeah,
word
better
it's
for it.
like
people
it's
there.
like it's like the worst of the worst people.
But they're so arrogant. I mean, I can't figure out how they keep being these loose lips. I mean, I'm thinking of James O'Keefe. He keeps, his undercover people keep finding dates that are just diarrhea of the mouth, right? And the inner workings, which is great. Go ahead, talk. But I just, it's their
Arrogance.
arrogance. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
They think they're above the law, but they last time Trump was in court, they were saying not even a president's above the law. So, kind of like set yourself up for a disaster there.
Tonight at 8 o'clock, Levin and Victor Davis Hanson will be on Fox, so that ought to be good.
What are we going over today, as far as civics goes?
Well, we're going to start with the First Amendment because we're doing the amendments. So
Mhm.
we're gonna go through the First Amendment, and then I was going to play the Constitution Alive for amendments 2 through 9. So I'm going to do just a short video on the First Amendment. Actually, I could probably just do this short video on the Bill of Rights if we want to just do that. Or I can put on the Constitutional Live thing, but the Constitutional Live thing is like an hour. I was going to break it up and we could talk about it.
I vote Bill of Rights. Do that one.
Okay.
I do have a little piece of trivia I shared in the Daily Mission Substack today for just a little history. And you want me to go ahead?
Yes, I definitely want you to
Okay,
go ahead.
I just want to make sure. When was the first bank established? I'm just going to read what I wrote. Are you surprised that it was today in 1791? It was a key part of the Secretary of Treasury, the first one, Alexander Hamilton's financial plan to address the huge federal debt from the American Revolutionary War. They were already way in debt back then. President George Washington signed the charter into law, and it was created to collect taxes, hold government funds, and make loans to the government and borrows. 20 years later, when the charter expired, it was not renewed by Congress due to concerns about foreign influence. I'm like, man, history just keeps repeating itself, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. And it's so funny when you go back and you listen to speeches where they're talking about the debt. It's such a small number compared to what we have now. And they talk about how if it gets to 15 trillion, this country is going to collapse. No,
Exactly.
not collapsed yet, but we're on the verge. I think
Anyway,
we've been
thanks.
on the verge since they basically created took us off the gold standard. We've been off the verge.
Yeah, I think so. But thanks for letting me share that trivia. I just thought it was interesting with the mention of debt and the foreign influence.
And that today is the anniversary.
Correct.
Very interesting. All right, so I'm going to play this one is 13 minutes. And so it's kind of a review, and then we can talk about some things. We'll read through them and go from there.
Involved many compromises. Considering the vast differences in culture, religion, and businesses, it's understandable that not everyone in the 13 original states was completely happy with the finished product. The Balancing Act became making enough states satisfied with the Constitution in order to ratify the document. And one of these major compromises was on adding a Bill of Rights to the Constitution. As you may know, the Federalists were confident the new federal government would not take away the rights of the people because, separation of powers, checks and balances, and the fact that there is nothing in the Constitution that states the government can take rights from the people. You're worrying about nothing. Now, the anti-federalists weren't so sure this was enough. They wanted guaranteed rights or states like Massachusetts, Maryland, South Carolina, and New Hampshire would not ratify the document. On the other hand, Delaware did not care about guaranteed rights. They ratified the document immediately. Once they pinky promised, the Constitution was ratified and everyone was happy, except they weren't done. They had to add guaranteed rights for all in a Bill of Rights. And before we go any further, I want to thank Pete Goldman and Pamela Benham for suggesting this video on the Bill of Rights. If you have any suggestions for a civics review video, leave me a comment below. Okie dokie, let's get to the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 changes to the Constitution. And we're going to start with Amendment 1. The First Amendment guarantees 5 rights which almost certainly appear on your end of course test. Off the top of your head, you could probably list some or all of them. Go ahead and try right now. Did you get them? In order to ensure we remember them all, we use the acronym RAPS. That's RAPPS. Acronyms are super helpful for remembering what these letters stand for. Observe. The acronym NASA stands for National Astronauts Space. It didn't work. Not even close. I've tried every available combination of letters to spell something cooler than RAPS, but it doesn't exist.
The audio cut out for anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
You are free to have any religion
Sorry,
or
Sorry,
faith.
guys.
You lost
Set
about
aside
like
our to
20,
gather in
30
groups.
seconds.
Usually it's a protest, and sometimes we assemble together in a flash mob because we just want to dance. Petition gives us the right to appeal or complain to the government. Press refers to media of any form, newspapers, news channels, social media, and it gives us the right to report on stories and news that's happening. And of course, we have the freedom of speech, meaning we have the right to our opinions and to express ourselves, whether people agree with us or not. Disclaimer. These rights and freedoms are not unlimited. An excellent rule of thumb is, if you're breaking a law, if you're doing something that will endanger others, you may not have the right to do these things. So let's take a closer look at limitations to our rights by going over the freedom to assemble, which is found in the First Amendment. This guarantees our right to assemble in groups in a public place. When thinking about somewhere private, like, say, your room, it is no longer acceptable to say, I have the right to assemble with my friends inside of your home. This is trespassing, and trespassing is a crime. For a full explanation of why you have limitations to your constitutional rights, you can click here and check this video out. Now, in 1791, as they are writing the Bill of Rights, the Revolutionary War is fresh in the back of everyone's brain. And under British rule, the colonists lost many rights and wanted to make sure that they'd never lose them again. So after the American Dance Revolution, which, by the way, we won with our mad skills, it was time to make sure a government would never attempt to take away these rights from the people. So the first few amendments in the Bill of Rights are responses to British rule in the past. So the Second Amendment guarantees us the right to bear arms. And this, of course, means to own a firearm or gun, right? I knew you knew what that meant, and probably not the other thing that you might have been thinking of. Now, this is a pretty big deal because the British try to take the colonists' weapons away, most notably in the raids at Lexington and Concord. While this can be a contentious issue in today's time, right? Do we have the right to own a gun, or should we have the right to own some kind of firearm? The Supreme Court has been pretty clear on its interpretation of the Second Amendment that people do have the right to bear arms. The Third Amendment is the odd one out. It reads, no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner. To the modern citizen, it is the most useless of the 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. I mean, really, how often does a soldier come knocking on your door saying, I need a place to stay, please let me in? This doesn't really happen. But back in the time of the colonies, where we were under British rule, this was a law. We had to allow soldiers into our house, feed them, and give them a place to stay. The next couple of amendments are called the rights of the accused, and those include amendments 4, 5, 6, and 8. Amendment 4 prohibits unreasonable search and seizures, and you're going to need to know this term for your test. Seizure, of course, referring to the action to seize, which means to take or repossess. And so basically, the police cannot go through your stuff or your house unless they have a warrant to do so that is issued by a judge or if they have probable cause. The Fifth Amendment has a lot of goodies for those accused of a crime, and it's going to establish the due process of law. So if you are being accused by someone for some kind of crime that might put you behind bars, we are owed the fairness of law, and that's known as due process. This includes a number of things, and first on the docket is the right to a grand jury in a federal crime. Meaning, if someone's going to put you behind bars, they better make sure that they're doing things the right way by having an impartial jury of your peers listen to your story and make sure you're really guilty of the crime. Another right of the accused given in the Fifth Amendment is what we call double jeopardy. And this is the right to not be tried for the same crime twice. This one's a little confusing, but if a courtroom finds that you are innocent of a crime, they can't come back and say, we're going to have a second trial because we found more information. We're going to try and make sure you're guilty this time. They can't do it a third time, and so on and so forth. And this is confusing for students because they say, okay, great. If I'm innocent of stealing, now I can steal whatever I want because I have the right of double jeopardy. Well, that's not quite how it works. If you are found innocent of a crime on a particular date in a particular event, then you cannot be tried for that same crime. But if you steal something the next day, well, then you can be tried for that crime because it is a separate instance. Another right in the Fifth Amendment is your right to remain silent. These are included in your Miranda rights. You have the right to not testify against yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4. You say, ask me a question, didn't you? It's up to the prosecution who has the burden of proof to find evidence that proves you are guilty of the crime. The final right in Amendment 5 is called eminent domain, and this means if the government needs to take your property or your things, then they must compensate you for it fairly. So if the government needs to take your home or the land that your home is on, then they need to give you more than $10 for that land and home. They have to give you a fair value. And this might surprise a bunch of you. You did not know that the government could take your stuff and give you money for it, but they can, especially if they need it for some kind of greater public good, like building a road through a property you own or a bridge or some kind of infrastructure. Moving on, we have Amendment 6, which gives you a couple of things if you're accused of a crime. And the first is a speedy and public trial. Remember, if someone's accusing you of a crime, you're innocent until proven guilty. But if you are arrested on January of 2022 and your trial is set for December 2025, this is considered to be too long to defend your good name. And while you're defending your good name, you need to have a public trial, meaning people can be there and see what's happening and know there's nothing corrupt going on, like you paying off the judge or the prosecution not presenting any kind of evidence and still being called guilty for the crime. You also have the right under the Sixth Amendment to an impartial jury, and that's a word that we're going to need to know. Impartial means fair and balanced, not leaning towards any side. Now, the jury is the group that's going to determine your innocence or guilt by listening to the facts in the story. And it would be very unfair if the people that were judging you were your buddy or your classmate or your best friend. On the other hand, it would be equally unfair if the jury was full of people like your ex-boyfriend, your angry neighbor, or that one science teacher that just really did not like you. What's up with science teachers anyways? Now, it is your Sixth Amendment rights that allows you to know what are you accusing me of? And who exactly is accusing me? The people who are accusing you cannot be anonymous. They must appear before you so you can see them, see their face and say, aha, it was you. Finally, the Sixth Amendment gives us the right to legal defense, even if we cannot afford a lawyer. So if you're incredibly poor, you are going to be given an attorney with amazing anime hair, and they're going to defend you in a court of law and do a goofy dance after they win. Okay, so the Eighth Amendment is the right to not be cruel and unusually punished. Now, obviously, all of the old forms of punishment that involve public humiliation fall into cruel and unusual punishment, but it includes other things like excessive fines and excessive bail. Any form of torture violates the Eighth Amendment because that is incredibly cruel. And of course, the punishment must fit the crime. If you steal fruit stripe gum, which I don't even know why you would bother with, you're not going to get 30 years in prison for that crime. That would be excessive and cruel and unusual. And now we're going to go back a ways to the Seventh Amendment, which does not really fall under the rights of the accused. You see, we're not talking about criminal law where you're stealing something or you could be guilty and go to jail. We're talking about civil law, which is just generally disagreements between people. Like when the tattoo parlor messes up your tattoo. This is not a crime, but you might want to sue them over this disagreement. So the Seventh Amendment guarantees a trial by jury in a civil lawsuit so that you in a tattoo parlor can go to court and have a jury of your peers listen to your horrific tale. Now, the Ninth Amendment seems tricky, but it's not. It reads, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Confusing, but essentially it means just because some rights are written down does not mean other rights that aren't written down can be denied. For instance, there's nothing in the Bill of Rights that says you have the right to wear tall socks or do bad cosplay. But just because it's not written down doesn't mean that these rights can be denied. Unless Congress writes a new law that specifically states you cannot do something, we should assume we have the rights to do things even though they're not specifically listed in the Bill of Rights. The 10th and final amendment in the Bill of Rights states, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Basically meaning, if it's not in the U.S. Constitution that the federal government should be doing this thing, then it's safe for the states. They can handle it however they want. Things like education are left up to the states. The federal government makes no mention of education within the Constitution. They say, hey man, we're going to leave that to you, Florida. It's up to you. Same thing goes for the driver's license. That's why every state has a different driving age or different requirements for operating a motor vehicle. It's because the federal government does not want to do this. And so they leave it up to the states. That's the 10th Amendment. When we can tell the government we have the right to privacy, you cannot search and seize my home without a warrant, then it reduces the power of the government and it gives power to the people. Same thing with getting a lawyer or having a speedy trial. We're putting the government on the clock and telling them, hey, you don't have unlimited power. We have rights. And that's a very cool thing. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks so much for sticking to the end of my video. I hope you...
Well, that summed it up pretty good. Oh, hey, Mr. Philby, you're up here. Are you not talking to me?
Of course, I'm talking to you.
How are you feeling?
Jen had to go to Sam's Club. She'll be back.
Oh, goody. How are you feeling? Okay.
Oh, that answers that. Oh no.
I have a headache and an earache, and I feel like
you're a disaster.
poop. Upper respiratory virus.
You sound worse than poop. I'm sorry.
I hope you feel better, Chris.
Yeah.
Kelly, you sound better today.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, I managed to take care of myself today and did what I was supposed to do for my health. So one day down.
After she got royally reamed yesterday.
Yes, I got in trouble. But love you guys.
Rightly so.
At least people understand that in this organization, we make sure that people are taken care of.
Hey, Chris, I only came up because I heard your horrible cough, and I came up to like offer you just a little bit of relief. You did say someone was going to Sam's Club for you. See if they can pick up a essential oil by the name of eucalyptus oil. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put it on a little itty bitty piece of paper towel, and whenever you feel that congestion in your chest real bad, go ahead and freaking breathe it in, and it'll break it up and make it easier. So when you cough it up.
Yeah, you could do the same with the oil of oregano as well. Eucalyptus oil is good.
Yeah,
as well.
this is all sinus. It's not in my chest.
That's why you inhale and exhale through your nose.
Yeah, eucalyptus helps the entire respiratory system. I do know an army trick that will knock all of that shit out of your system at once. but you're going to need to open all your windows in the house and prepare your family to leave the house because you're essentially making a very mild pepper gas on the stove and you're going to breathe it in.
Oh,
You just
that
cook
sounds like
crushed
fun.
I'll go get some eucalyptus.
I'm just
But-
saying,
but-
the army juice does work in like immediately. Like you're gonna have like snot tendrils like touching the ground and not disconnected from your nose.
Well, I've got the neti pot. I can use that and flush myself out.
Neti pots are the best. Oh,
I'm
cool.
partial to the pepper gas.
I don't know about the neti pots. You could kind of bring germs from your nasal region to different areas. Well, some people like them. I personally like. I don't know. You blow your snot out, not in. You know, like I don't know.
Well, if
I don't
you
know.
wash it from one side to the other, you're getting it
I
out.
have massage also.
Okay, get some eucalyptus oil is a good method, and oil of oregano will open up your lungs real quick. You just put a few drops under your tongue and breathe in the vapors, and then spit it out after you're done. Exhale it through your
By
nose.
the by, we are not medical doctors, and this is not official medical advice.
Yeah, we're just discussing his
No,
ailments.
that's holistic. I don't need a
Thank
doctor's
you.
thing for that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I'm just some dude that takes care of himself up on the fucking mountains.
damn right.
Nice to see
Thank
you,
you.
Pathfinder.
Thank you very much, Pathfinder. God bless you.
All right, so I
You
learned
as well.
So,
about
are you gonna play the stuff I sent you?
I am. Did you sent it in my text, didn't you?
I sent it in the group.
Okay, I'm gonna go get that and get it to my computer. So talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Chris, you didn't put in the back channel DN we specifically created for spaces?
Just early decided what she was gonna do.
Hey Chris, I was ruffling through some files and I found a certificate of completion I got 100% score on social engineering awareness from AT&T University in 2020. I was like, I know about social engineering, you know, obviously I scored well on it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Data Republican just got doxxed. She's going through security clearance right now, working with Doge, and she has to have security now, and she's paying for it.
Yes.
She's deaf, but she cannot, with the type of dysplasia. What is it they call it? She's deaf and non-verbal.
Yeah.
So she can't just use an interpreter. She has to have someone that can understand what she means, not what she's trying to say, you know, with that. But she's been doxxed. And so she's come out and just to let everybody know who she is. She just recently resigned from her job so she could focus on Doge. And they're in the process right now because of what she'll have access to on a federal level with Doge. I can't believe people do this.
It's people internal, most likely. We
Yeah.
still have it. That's why I get so upset with people like, oh, put out the charges already. Put out the charges. Like, yeah, you still have people internal that could mess things up, and then throw everything like out the window as far as charges go because of a technicality that they messed up on because they intentionally messed it up. So these people could get away with things. No, we got to clean house, and then we got to go through the process. You know?
She put out
just calm down.
She put out a.
But if y'all could subscribe to her, that would be awesome. It's $3 a month. They told her she should charge more. She brings too much value, but she feels like she wants to make everybody get available to her tools, and she doesn't charge for her tools, where you can search with them. And I'm using them now. And
How many followers does she have?
469,000.
Yep.
Okay, 100,000 people, you know, subscribe at $3 a piece. That's pretty.
Yeah, that's why she was
pretty good,
able to resign
feedback.
from her other job. And that's what I was going to say, though,
Yeah.
is that her most recent subscription post was about being doxxed and that she's getting conflicting advice and was just asking for prayers of wisdom. So she's such a sweet person and talented.
Yes, she is. She also has an autistic son who has other issues as well, and she has a form of autism. So it's different how her brain works, and then being mute and deaf. That's got to be. She's brilliant, but it's difficult to communicate because she came on. She's done 2 spaces with an interpreter, but she has to have the right interpreter so that they can understand each other. So it took a long time to train, but her privacy is gone. And I hate that for her. And she's tagging into Doge now with Elon, um, because we still have so much more work to do. And I just want to make sure she's protected. I'm hoping I got to believe that Elon's going to give her some type of security, but right now she's not on the Doge payroll. So she's coming out of pocket for her security. So if y'all
Right,
can
like,
subscribe, that would be great.
security issue is, it shouldn't really be an issue if she has the report yet. Like they're like standing in every town and all across America, every city, there are veterans willing to stand up and go like volunteer to freaking die.
You know,
there's
you're
how many
right.
times
Yeah, I will let Sean know. Sean's been kind of helping and he kind of manages the business of it. So I'll reach out to Sean. Sean Hendricks, he's the one from Eastern North Carolina that came here during a hurricane to help out a lot. He's just a really good guy. So I'll reach out to Sean and Data. Um, she and I were texting the other night. So I'll make her aware of that option and see what we can do.
And then
Thank
That
you.
also
really
with that
sucks.
option, you have to ensure that that the person volunteering their time, they're complying with all state and federal alike gun laws if they're going to carry.
Okay. I think she's more worried about her son, and I would be too. He has his autism in school. They're still having issues managing him because he doesn't qualify for a certain program. So, and I had listened to her when her and Nicole Shanahan did her podcast. That was her first podcast. But I'll find out. I'll find out and see what I can do. Who am I speaking to?
Pathfinder.
What?
It's
That's who you're speaking
Pathfinder.
to.
Pathfinder. Okay, great. Thank you, Pathfinder. Thank you.
The
All
only
right,
reason
thanks.
that I know the advice that I gave you is good is because me as a combat veteran and the fact that I work at Triple Canopy, whenever security needs arise in the community, especially even at my son's school, I'm the first one there to volunteer, and I carry everywhere. So I mean, as long as everything is in compliance with state and federal laws, the veterans they should be fine to go over there and volunteer. I know in Colorado that's legal, Texas it's legal, but like it's literally just volunteer work.
That's pretty cool. Thank you, Pathfinder. Appreciate you. All right, I'm gonna get to this video that Mr. Philby gave me from Scalia.
And while she's doing that, everybody repost the space because we need more people in there and more exposure, and the more the merrier.
It's free.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and I'm happy to be back in front of the Judiciary Committee where I started this pilgrimage. I am going to get even more fundamental than my good friend and colleague. Like him, I speak to students, especially law students, but also college students and even high school students, quite frequently about the Constitution, because I feel that we're not teaching it very well. I speak to law students from the best law schools, people presumably especially interested in the law, and I ask them, how many of you have read the Federalist Papers? And well, a lot of hands will go out. No, not just number 48 and the big ones. How many of you have read the Federalist Papers cover to cover? never more than about 5%. And that is very sad. I mean, especially if you're interested in the Constitution. Here's a document that says what the framers of it thought they were doing. It's such a profound exposition of political science that it is studied in political science courses in Europe. And yet we have raised a generation of Americans who are not familiar with it. So when I speak to these groups, the first point I make, and I think it's even a little more fundamental than the one that Stephen has just put forward. I ask them, what do you think is the reason that America is such a free country? What is it in our Constitution that makes us what we are? And I guarantee you that the response I will get, and you will get this from almost any American, including the woman that he was talking to at the supermarket, the answer would be freedom of speech, freedom of the press, no unreasonable searches and seizures, no quartering of troops in hope, those marvelous provisions of the Bill of Rights. But then I tell them, if you think that a Bill of Rights is what sets us apart, you're crazy. Every banana republic in the world has a Bill of Rights. Every president for life has a Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights of the former evil empire, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was much better than ours. I mean it literally. It was much better. We guarantee freedom of speech and of the press, big deal. They guaranteed freedom of the speech, of the press, of street demonstrations and protests, and anyone who is caught trying to suppress criticism of the government will be called to account. Whoa, that is wonderful stuff. Of course, just words on paper. What our framers would have called a parchment guarantee. And the reason is that the real constitution of the Soviet Union, you think of the word constitution, it doesn't mean a bill, it means structure. Say a person has a sound constitution, has a sound structure. The real constitution of the Soviet Union, which is what our framers debated that whole summer in Philadelphia in 1787. They didn't talk about the Bill of Rights. That was an afterthought, wasn't it? That constitution of the Soviet Union did not prevent the centralization of power in one person or in one party. And when that happens, the game is over. The Bill of Rights is just what our framers would call a parchment guarantee. So the real key to the distinctiveness of America is the structure of our government. One part of it, of course, is the independence of the judiciary. But there's a lot more. There are very few countries in the world, for example, that have a bicameral legislature. England has a House of Lords for the time being, but the House of Lords has no substantial power. They can just make the Commons pass a bill a second time. France has a Senate, it's honorific. Italy has a Senate, it's honorific. Very few countries have two separate bodies in the legislature equally powerful. That's a lot of trouble, as you gentlemen doubtless know, to get the same language through two different bodies elected in a different fashion. Very few countries in the world have a separately elected chief executive. Sometimes I go to Europe to talk about separation of powers. And when I get there, I find that all I'm talking about is independence of the judiciary, because the Europeans don't even try to divide the two political powers, the two political branches, the legislature and the chief executive. In all of the parliamentary countries, the chief executive is the creature of the legislature. There's never any disagreement between them and the prime minister, as there is sometimes between you and the president. When there's a disagreement, they just kick them out. They have a no confidence vote, a new election, and they get a prime minister who agrees with the legislature. And, the Europeans look at the system and they say, well, it passes one house, it doesn't pass the other house. Sometimes the other house is in the control of a different party. It passes both. And then this president who has a veto power vetoes it. And they look at this and they say, it is gridlock. And I hear Americans saying this nowadays, and there's a lot of it going around. They talk about a dysfunctional government. because there's disagreement, and the framers would have said yes. That's exactly the way we set it up. We wanted this to be power contradicting power, because the main ill that beset us, as Hamilton said in the Federalist, when he talked about a separate Senate, he said, yes, it seems inconvenient, but inasmuch as the main ill that besets us is an excess of legislation, it won't be so bad. This is 1787. He didn't know what an excess of legislation was. So unless Americans can appreciate that and learn to love the separation of powers, which means learning to love the gridlock, which the framers believed would be the main protection of minorities, the main protection. If a bill is about to pass that really comes down hard on some minority, they think it's terribly unfair. It doesn't take much to throw a monkey wrench into this complex system. So Americans should appreciate that, and they should learn to love the gridlock. It's there for a reason, so that the legislation that gets out will be good legislation. And thus conclude my opening remarks.
I love him.
Yeah, Scalia is the best. I've been following him for quite a bit. He's one of my favorites.
I did not know that. I just learned something new. Thank you, Mr. Philby.
His son is the pastor of my church.
Really? Wow. That's
Wow. Is he like his father?
A little bit.
But I have to say that I love that man as our Supreme Court judge. And it was funny, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was like his best friend, and they didn't agree on hardly anything. But they built an amazing friendship.
Yeah, I get really
It did
frustrated with the
before.
process, right? The timing of the process. But I think that I like what he said, and it does make sense. You need that contention, you need that debate in order to make sure that the laws that are being passed are good laws.
The thing about it,
No, I-
without the gridlock, you wouldn't, you'd have so many different laws passed so easily, like it would overwhelm, and it's gotten to that point where so many laws have been passed easily. That's the problem, is you didn't have that sort of contention. Everyone's willing to bend over for the lobbyists, pretty much.
Go ahead, Pathfinder.
Yeah, so that did spark a question, and I agree with both points. The government should spend all of its time fighting itself. That way, it's not fighting the people, i.e., the gridlock. I also agree with the fact that debate and discourse and contention, it breeds greatness. Because if it's not good enough to pass muster of the other side, then obviously you're going to have contention. But if you want a bill to go through, you have to take everybody into consideration, all of the hundreds of millions of Americans throughout the country. But with that being said, at what point does that contention and gridlock just become stagnation? Because
think
that's
that
what
was
we're
the
currently
point of it.
seeing.
That was the point of it, to restrain the federal government so it doesn't have so many, overreaching laws, and minimize the reach.
It's a
you know,
delicate
overreach
balance.
of federal government.
No. I agree with the point. I definitely agree. And I understand why the founding fathers set up the government the way they did in a specific example. And I'm all for it. But there is a point to where the contention in the gridlock stops being contention and gridlock and literally just stagnates into pond scum. Where is that line? And if have we already crossed that line?
We already did,
I mean,
I think.
yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Well, then we have elections, and that disrupts it as well. Because law should be slow. New law should be slow, except for like a Lake and Riley dealing with an immediate problem that needed to be addressed quickly, which I was stunned how fast it went through.
Well, Southern, I think we all need to be honest with ourselves here. Passing the renaming post offices is also something that should.
Go away.
Huh?
So it should go away. They don't need to be doing that.
They should name the post office after the neighborhood it's in, not after somebody.
Agreed. I think that I really would like to see this removal of laws. I really want to see them make that effort to, for every law that's passed, they remove 10 because we really got a major problem. I know that that's one of Cash's, things is that he wants to get a lot of the regulations pulled off. And so.
And American, that actually brings up another point. Like, I've heard about this process since I was a child in school and we first studied civics. Now, I'm not a civics person. I'm an engineer. I'm here asking questions as basically somewhat of a layman of the process here. So please forgive me for that. I've heard about the process of like making a law and then freaking that law becomes detrimental over time as our technology progresses or as deeper understanding within society progresses, whatever that law pertains to. Why haven't we ever actually done laws with sunset clauses as everybody has like preached at me since I was a little kid? A sunset clause being, okay, this law is, hey, freaking, you can't commit murder or whatever, but we're going to revisit this law and see if it's still valid in 5 years. And if it's not valid, we're going to strike it from the record.
Well, they do that. They do that all the time, Pathfinder.
They just keep renewing the shitty ones.
Especially in tax law. There's a sunset clause in the current tax code, and if they don't revisit that, then you're going to go back to pre-Trump tax rates. So they made the business tax cuts permanent, but not the individual tax cuts. And then you have the Patriot Act that comes up for renewal on a fairly regular basis. Well, instead of voting to renew that, they need to either strip it of most of what it is or just not renew it. I mean, the bottom line is that you're exactly right. When they pass laws that are done in the heat of passion, they need to have an automatic sunset clause. And I think that something like the Patriot Act is one thing. I think that realignment of in creating the Department of Homeland Security is another thing. All of those departments should have filtered back into their original places within 5 years. And the Department of Homeland Security should have either gone to something extremely small or non-existent because, right now it's what, 22 different agencies under one roof.
I'll give you a little bit of pushback on the department, just a little bit, because they are corrupt. Because like all agencies, there's corruption everywhere, and I'll give you your due on that. They did do one good thing though, and I will always praise them for this one good thing. They took a bunch of agencies that were disconnected and they streamlined communication through all of these agencies. So if there's somebody going through the border at TSA or at the border, but the FBI has them flagged as like a terrorist, TSA has that information instead of beforehand, before Homeland Security came about. There was no communication between the FBI and TSA. It was a long, drawn-out, bureaucratic, red tape process, but it's instantaneous now. That is the one good thing that I will give credit to the Homeland for.
Well, we've got Dr. Fuzia, who's got her hand up here.
Thank you so much. My name is Fazia. You can call me like Fozzie Bear if you guys have ever watched the Muffet Show. That's my Midwest fiance has been saying if he has hard time in defining how to say my name. And I'm from Afghanistan. For me, it's very important to talk because all my life journey signifies many different things in history. So, one thing is very unique, what I've learned when I was becoming an American citizen uh, while accepting the flag and pledging allegiance to the US flag. We said that whenever in time of need, I will raise weapon for this country, for its safety, and would put this country, USA, in trust before any other country, even the country of my birth. So that's an oath everyone's who are becoming a US citizen is taking. And it was very important for me because if the oath I take, I have to be worthy of it to fulfill it. So I start assimilating in this culture and this beautiful melting pot, but I have the same worries as you all for like 50 years, and now all this money that US has been spending, funding, billing to different part of the world is as significant for me as it is for you. I don't know if it would be fair for the greater good of the humanity and mankind. US has spent $2.1 billion in Afghanistan. Is it the time to collect that? And the collection, if they don't have the money, just take their lands. Because my fiance is kind of like a eviction and collection attorney. And I find it very interesting when people, destroy your property, you have to pay the compensation, you know, and when they waste your time, when they are kind of like using your resources. So all even sometime the time that you go out finding an attorney, sometime like they have to pay even the attorney fees because they destroyed your property, they wasted your time. And don't you think so? That's the time that US should start doing that. In Afghanistan, it wholly belongs to them. So is Pakistan, their external policy, their nuclear weapons. US owns that by all the money they own.
Well, I think
US own the land. They can operate anything against USSR, Russia, or Central Asia, or Iran, or China.
well, so
So that's
he's
all
working on
very
that
well.
with, he started with Ukraine, right? So he's working on that deal for them to.
I was also coming to that. Do you think what he's asking Zelensky that we spend
I
that
think
much
she
money?
was
Because
answering or trying
compared
to
to
answer
point
that.
1 trillions and the Zelensky money is just 75 billion. So do you think that's a part would be extended to Afghanistan and Pakistan as well, who owes us more money than
You gotta
Well,
let
Zelensky
her
owes?
answer the first question
he
first.
already, Adam, it's okay. He already talked about in his speech at CPAC, he talked about getting back the weapons that, that they need to give them back and start, negotiating a peace deal.
Because the weapon thing, I wanted to just comment if you just for 1 minute. That is important for me as well, because if we take the weapon as Pakistan, Afghanistan, along with their proxy, Pakistan's are, uh, spreading the rumors that as if U.S. lost that war in Afghanistan, they run away and leaving that weapon behind. So for me, if U.S. collect the weapon back, would symbolize a victory for the US and would also symbolize us as strong. It would symbolize the strength of the US. And I think that would is also something which US public should endorse and support Trump for if he's collecting the
Well, I
weapon
think
as
that
well.
that's part of his long-term plan. I think that he's, that's what Pete Hegseth is trying to get our military back up to where it needs to be, and that will help with our negotiating as well. So I think that he's moving on a bunch of things all at one time, as we've seen over the last 36, 7 days. They've been glorious days, but it's a delicate balance. He had to stop that Russian Ukraine war. He had to stop the dying, and then if I believe Zelensky agreed to the terms of the mineral sharing deal. And also, I know that, like I said, he said at that CPAC speech, if you haven't listened to it, it was jam packed full of stuff. Don't you guys agree?
It was, and he did agree. He's coming on Friday to sign it.
Oh, we're letting him in. Oh.
We also have a base there, Bagram base. We have a military base there.
Bagram base. Bagram base should be like repossessed by the U.S. military. I don't care who rules in Afghanistan. They send their women to school or not. That ain't my problem. But I want our military presence there. They can live their traditional way, but our military presence is important because we have to surveillance Iran, China, and Russia from there, and also any other Islamic militant group emerging from Central Asia, ISIS-K, and all that. Yep. Thank you for
I
saying
wouldn't
that.
be surprised if Trump doesn't enlist Russia's help with Afghanistan, because both countries have a sordid past in Afghanistan. And I think that, we could see maybe a team up to right the wrongs that have gone on there.
I don't think that'll work. While
I
you are
think that's
correct,
a great idea.
while you are correct about Russia's history in Afghanistan, Russia's history in Afghanistan, it left a bad taste in the mouth of like the planet. Because when Russians pull out, they mine everything, and for generations afterwards, their specific mining, their bomblets or miniature mine design, they look like children's toys. I've come across multiple variations of them while I was in Afghanistan. But for the generations that grew up around Russian bases in Afghanistan, it was devastating. Little kids would go outside to play and they'd lose an arm or a leg. So inviting Russia in to do a peace talk with Afghanistan would be a horrible idea. So there's still, even throughout the entire time that I was deployed in Afghanistan and the multiple deployments that I did, the people there are still being injured by Russian munitions. It's very bad.
That's totally different. I don't know, Pat. Fine, maybe I agree to disagree, but I tell you one thing: Russia was before that. I think not only Bagram base U.S. should hold, but also the Pakistani nuclear assets, nuclear locations, and all their whereabouts should be under U.S. surveillance. So somehow that is not used against us and our friendly countries in that region. Um, there is mixed feeling of Russia about Russia in Afghanistan. Somehow Russia is influencing Iran. Russia is influencing Middle East war, the war between Israel's and all the neighboring countries. You're right, but I don't know. You're right. It's challenging. It's challenging not only the local people sentiment that's not much concerning, but the kind of power Russia is wielding in Central Asia and in Middle East on the bigger level scale. Do you think Russia would agree to let's cooperate, you have Bagram big, we can control nuclear weapons and move on and build a good world? I don't know.
I think that and this is just me just spitballing here, right? Like, because I am no foreign policy expert by any means, but we have to try something different. And we've never done something where we were allies with Russia, where we had like squash everything. Let's move.
World War II.
But
we kind of squashed the Nazis.
I was thinking, wasn't that ally?
Yeah, I mean, we were allies then, and look at the good that came out of that, right? Like, look at the fact that we were able to stop that. And I think it's going to take the two superpowers coming together and saying, we are at a point in humanity that we have got to change the way that we are thinking or change the way what we're doing and come together and, you know, work on the things that we agree on. Just like we're trying to do, with, the Maha people and, the Democrats.
Even Japan.
Right.
With Japan, aren't we
Exactly.
friends?
Could you imagine if we had a relationship with Russia like we have a relationship with Japan? I feel like the world would be a better place.
We have to drop a
Well,
nuke
we
on them
do.
first.
No,
just kidding.
no, no.
America,
Oh no, become friends with them. Just kind of let's save the nuke for somebody. And I see I see a very beautiful, better world uh, when if Russia and US come together as brothers and partners in finance, economic, being a strong financial economical corridor, I think Russia will benefit us even more than no disrespect to any European country, but I feel like we have to bridge with Russia while benefiting Europe. How? Yes, President Trump met Macron's, but all the African, like I feel so bad. The peoples are suffering. We have to be friends. It's our moral obligation. It's our ethic. It's the values we should show to the people who needs us. Like in Africa, I've been seeing people, the Boko Haram and all these ISK and all these Al Qaeda's killing kids with bats. It's just like for me, it was The Walking Dead, and it's a crazy apocalypse situation. It's an apocalypse, and for if Russia and America comes to terms, that will turn the world into a beautiful place. And I think China would be in control, Taiwan and Japan is kind of moving. It's. I think we are at the time in history where we can be back to the Second World War time and be friend. And now Israel is another good ally in Middle East. So we are in a better position. But the only
We've got
thing is
we've got
Well,
to
part
bridge.
of the problem is Russia is the reason NATO exists.
right. But so hear me out here. We've got to take care of the bad intelligence things that have gone on that Israel has done, that we have done, that Russia has done. And, I mean, is there going to be a time when we can actually work with China as well and get back to, wait, you guys do this, we do this? Like, I get it that it's going to be more difficult with China because they don't have the same Judeo-Christian, you know, core.
It'll
or
never
fundamental-
happen. It'll
I know,
never
I know.
happen.
But I think that
I was gonna say
Russia,
that if you only knew who's funding and propping up these boogeymen that you're speaking of, then you'd be shocked.
well,
You're going to be even more shocked to find out that USAID sent them like some money.
Yeah.
I know.
Remember those terrorist intents with USAID?
Yep.
Yeah, we've been funding them. We've been creating them.
I know.
It's a reason to go out there with a hammer and take resources. So,
Well,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I think that
same thing with communism.
I think that Russia could be a good partner in, getting rid of that stuff.
Yeah, because Kim, I agree with you there because the sentiment, what I saw pre-election and even before that was people are tired of sending their sons and daughters to go die in foreign lands, for special interests to make profit, So that's the thing is I think people don't want to send their soldiers to go stay in Afghanistan.
Had that we didn't send our son to kill people or to go after anyone when we were attacked.
No,
it was our
you
moral
said
obligation to go after the enemy.
to station
No, I said I
soldiers
know
in
every
Afghanistan,
U.S. serviceman
and that's
who
not something we want to do,
died,
honestly.
and that was the post 9/11. Somebody has attacked U.S. That's why son and daughter of this land took. That's what I was thinking when you're taking an oath and becoming a U.S. citizen. If they call any citizen to fight for the motherland, that's our duty. And those who are doing it, that's why we thank them for their
100%.
service. And that
Yeah, do you know how
was the
long we
9/11
sat in Afghanistan for? About like 2 weeks before we started going and invading Iraq.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
there's a definitely the way that was handled was not proper, and I don't want to get into that discussion, but I do want to get to the hands. Matt, you go ahead, and then Pathfinder, and then I want to continue with this.
So I just to let y'all know I had to take the call. that I was expecting and didn't want, and so that's why I dropped down. But where are we in the amendments, or where tonight? Where are we at exactly? I heard some.
We talked about the Bill of Rights, and we did a like a brief video, and then we did Chris was talking about, or he sent us the video on Scalia. Did you get to hear that? Talking about.
I did not, but don't play it again for my sake.
No, well, I'll just give you a little bit of a rundown. He was talking about the why our government, like why we have, why it works, right? And the reason that it works is because we have the contention, right? We have the powers that are butting up against each other. In Congress, you've got two houses, and a bill has to go through both of them. They have to fight it out, and when you come out with clean legislation when you've got that. So that's what he was talking about. It's not about the Bill of Rights because lots of countries have Bill of Rights. It's about our form, our structure of government is the reason why it has worked for as long as it has worked.
Just the idea
That's
of
interesting,
gridlock,
but
Matt, is a
that's
good
interesting.
thing.
Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, basically the gist of it is the idea of gridlock is a good thing because it doesn't create too much laws and overreach of the federal government. But yeah, that's
allegedly it doesn't create too much laws.
Yeah,
Right.
but then when they
Right.
bring it off the rails and everybody's bought out by lobbyists, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, but the other thing, first of all, I don't blame you for your cynicism in that regard. But second, that's all well and good, assuming those laws aren't a one way right. It's like whenever we talk about the topic of education, and this is not me trying to derail the space or get us onto something else. This is me trying to make a point. I'm using education to do it. It's like whenever we talk about it, we talk about how we don't want our kids or y'all's kids. I don't know, kids. Um, having to go through this left wing indoctrination. Okay, well, that doesn't mean we don't want any indoctrination, because what's the root word of indoctrination? Doctrine, right? So then the question is, so then the question we should be asking ourselves is, what kind of doctrine do we want our kids learning? So when it comes to same thing when it comes to government. When it comes to government, we should be asking, what should be the government's moral and constitutional purpose in the first place? And whatever that answer is will determine well, what laws do we pass? What direction are we headed? Because this is all ultimately headed somewhere, right? This is we don't just do things, pass laws, executive orders, write rules, all in a vacuum. No. This is all headed somewhere. This is all headed in a direction. And unfortunately, and as far as gridlock is concerned, at times you're going to have it because presumably, or preferably, it would be because the two parties gridlocking presumably disagree over the direction we're going. But unfortunately, to me, it seems like, and we kind of talked about this yesterday, it seems like instead they're just fighting over the stuff that serves them and not the things that actually serves us. That's what the point of gridlock is, to at least practically, not theoretically. And
Well,
anyway, forgive me for being a bit long-winded there, Kim.
No, you're fine. And I think that, we've got some issues that we need to address, like lobbyists, and we've got some things that have kind of latched onto our government that are sort of a scourge that needs to be cleared out. Go ahead, Pathfinder.
I was just going to say, in specific sectors, back to your point there, American, I don't know your name. I just got to go by what is under your flag there.
It's Kim.
Okay, back to your point, Kim, of like America and Russia building ties together and accomplishing things together. So in specific sectors, that already exists, and it exists in a beautiful dynamic. Especially with our space sector and a lot of our scientific research disciplines. Russia and America have been working together flawlessly since it stopped being the USSR, essentially. Now, how do you broaden that? to encompass like a greater functionality between the countries and I guess hammer out an agreement. Well, the one of the things that makes those structures so robust and so strong and so reliable, and like even when Putin was presented recently that they said that the moon landing was fake, and Putin was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like our own history says it was real. We tracked the rocket, all of it. So the reason why those relationships work is they don't allow politics within those systems. The scientific community, like politics, when dealing with other like members of the scientific community, no matter where they're at, it doesn't exist.
I think we used to not let politics into the system, but now we do. And I think that that came about, slowly since W, especially Obama. But I think that the politics that has rooted in there is causing a major problem with our innovation, our ability to innovate. So you're spot on with that. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to throw out some housekeeping stuff. First, I see Stacy down in the audience, so I'm happy that she found us tonight. That's great.
I texted the space to her.
I know she has trouble finding us sometimes, but I'm glad she's here. Also, for anybody that missed any of the videos we've already played or audio that we played, the space is recorded, so we can retweet the space so that people can find it and listen to it later. And we also have streams with video and live chats on pill.net and X Broadcast and rumble.com and kick.com and YouTube. So just wanted to throw that out there and welcome all of our streamers.
You're being Kelly's favorite tonight, aren't you?
Hey, I got to do something.
He's a great guy. Michael's great.
Oh, thank you.
So I was going to read some of these amendments, at least read the first 5, and then we can talk about them a little bit if we want to. So the first one, after the first enumeration required by the first article of the Constitution, there shall be one representative for every 30,000 until the number shall. Oh, wait, sorry, that's the articles. Here we go. Amendment.
Oops, that's Article 1.
Yeah. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Amendment 2 is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Amendment 3, no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Amendment 4 is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And then Amendment 5 is no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy or of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. I feel like a lot of these rights have been violated in recent times.
Let's just start with the First Amendment. You got 5 freedoms listed there. freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of the people to peaceably assemble, and freedom of to have their grievances redressed. Right? That's
It's packed full of stuff.
yeah. So that's five freedoms right there in the First Amendment, and we can count the ways that can we could spend the rest of this space counting the ways that the First Amendment, First, Second, and Fourth Amendment have all been violated, and I don't care what y'all do to me for this, but I'm sorry, the Fourth Amendment is not does not guarantee your right to privacy. It guarantees your right against unreasonable searches and seizures. That doesn't equate to privacy.
I feel
Sorry.
like that. I feel like that. The that has been violated as well, right? With the FISA warrants and all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Yeah. So I
Correct.
feel like they were
Correct.
able to violate our rights uh, on a level that is just unprecedented.
And that word has in and of itself been bastardized and whatnot. Why don't we count the ways the word unprecedented has been bastardized instead? I think that would be shorter than counting the ways our rights have been violated.
I mean, there's just really not another word for it right now because we are in these times.
hmm and that's not even to mention the other rights we don't talk about, like the Fifth Amendment and some of the others. Some of those we don't know what they mean anymore.
You're right about that. You know, I had a woman come. She actually works with Ross Voigt. Um,
OMB director.
yeah, yeah. So she came and spoke at my local GOP club meeting, and the first thing she did was say, "What is freedom?" And her whole speech was themed around the idea that we don't even know what freedom is anymore. You know, she said that we're like an HOA. You know, everybody's got to get the government involved in all of their disputes, and you know, so it's like we've become dependent upon them for some reason. I mean, I know why, but it was really interesting
Correct.
though for to talk about when you really think about it, we don't know what true freedom is anymore. We've lost that.
And that's in whatever sense of the term you want to use it, right? That's rather in a civic sense, in a religious sense, in a national sense. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We don't know, and when we don't know, then we don't when we have forgotten what we had or what we had, then you're susceptible to becoming enslaved to whatever what your condition to say yes to whatever. And to me that's how we got the COVID response, is because is because we'd been so dumbed down that we had been convinced that freedom means means compliance. And they're one and the same when they're really not, because you will either be a slave to the state or a free citizen. And if you are a free citizen, then the state has its boundaries, but the state is not your ultimate source of authority. Hopefully the good Lord is, but
Well, and you know, it's by design, right? Like if we were studying the Constitution, you know, like and studying the Bible like we're supposed to do, you know, it's not just I'm going to read it and then that's it. You know, we're supposed to be studying throughout our life these documents, and we got away from that. That Patriot Act would have never passed if we as American citizens had been paying attention. I got to be honest. I'm recently awoken. I've only been awake for about 2.5 years. I didn't know anything about the Patriot Act, and I was in my early 20s when 9/11 happened. But I mean, I was busy getting married and having fun, and just going about my life, not getting involved because I was just like, oh, just government was bleh. But I didn't know that I needed to be involved or I was going to lose the way of life that I love.
A lot of us didn't, but here we are, and that's why we're learning civics.
The budget passed.
Sort of.
The House, it passed the House.
Yeah. Yep. 4.5 trillion cuts in taxes for tips, Social Security, and overtime passed.
Wait, they legit passed no tax on tips.
No,
Yep.
no. I mean, it's not the actual. It's getting it to committee.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
This is the
okay. So
first
this
step.
hasn't passed
Yeah.
the full House yet.
Right.
No, they're voting.
Okay,
The whole
okay.
House has been voting.
Yeah, the
watching
final
them
vote
on
was
the floor.
217 to 215, with Thomas Massey being the only Republican to vote no. But now it goes to the
Yeah.
committees, and then it'll be a framework.
Yeah, but there are 3 Democrats that didn't vote. They weren't there yet, or mine is slow for my access. I don't know, wireless.
There,
But it doesn't shift the vote, so should be interesting. I was surprised.
there were multiple votes in the second one. Some people came back that weren't there for the first vote, including like one
Yeah.
lady who just had a baby, another guy that was on a walker.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
We have long-term care there and nurseries. Long-term care and nurseries.
And,
Those are new
you would
biddies.
know, in Southern, you would know being in the medical field.
You would, yes. I would. I would.
Hi, Christopher. We have a new Christopher on the stage, Mr. Philby.
I'm hoping that's me. Howdy, y'all. Love the America First. I caught you guys a while back on one of my other accounts before I was so rudely banned again. But here I am back again. I just wanted to, I love the constitutionality talk. What I don't love is, like the lovely voice lady was saying, the Patriot Act, Project Prism, etc. These things have literally stripped us our rights, and we willingly gave them up in a sense of false security. So we can talk constitutionality all we want, but the reality is we don't have it anymore. It's gone. We can even try to fight it legally in the judicial branches of our government, but we'll lose because of we've given it up in this for the cause of security, supposedly our safety and security and prosperity. We gave up our constitutional rights. Now, I don't think us citizens gave them up as much as our leaders in power gave them up. And I would say that that would be argument for treason.
They pretty much all 535
Yeah.
of them have committed treason.
Thomas Massey is the one nationalist, patriotic member of Congress that we have. Like, they're all grifters. They all are in it for their own self, including Donald Trump, unfortunately.
And that's true, Chris. But here's the thing: the guys that founded this generation wouldn't be mad at them for grifting off of us. They'd be mad at us for letting them get away with it.
Absolutely, and that's why I say the only answer and the only thing we can do to solve this problem is to renew the tree of liberty with, unfortunately, the blood of patriots and tyrants. We need to take it back, and it's gonna be kinetic, or we follow a false leader, Donald Trump, that says we're America first, but in reality, it's Israel first. It's the international Jewry first.
Oh,
And
get out of here
we
with that. Get out of
don't
here.
well, stand by
Get
now.
out of here with that.
You've been
No wonder
lied.
he's
Do
gotten
not call
banned.
for violence either,
You've
please.
been lied to about everything by everyone. Why would you believe that?
Well, it doesn't
I
matter
don't.
if we.
National socialism is the way out.
Well,
Capital cronyism and democracy, those are the ways to enslavement.
well, but so
National
you
socialism.
don't want to swing the pendulum back
Do
too
you
far.
even live in America, dude?
Yeah, I'm actually a disabled combat veteran, dude.
Thank you for your service. Appreciate you.
Well,
Uh,
I mean,
but
if
so
you're thanking me for fighting for Israel and slaughtering men,
I
women,
appreciate
and
your service. I
children,
said. I didn't say anything else.
which was slaughtering men, women, and children on behalf of Israel. Oh, and Dick Cheney, he made a lot of money with Kellogg, Brown, and Root. And I mean, how many American lives? Let's just say American, because we're American, right? How many American lives have been sacrificed on behalf of the international Jew
Chris,
since World
hear you,
War
buddy.
One?
wait,
This
so
is
we're not going
World
to sit
War
up here. Hey,
One.
listen to me,
How many
Christopher.
American lives have we
Christopher,
lost?
Christopher, listen. Okay, this is a civics class, and while I understand your frustrations, okay, there we have a laundry list of them. We're not going to sit up here and blame a whole group of people for our problems. Our problems were created by all of us. Okay, so that's the way that we're going to have to get, and it's going to take all of us to get out of this mess peacefully. And that's the path that we are on. We're going to figure out a way to come together as Earth and get things accomplished as humanity. Sorry, but I can't have you do that.
Are you a globalist or are you a
No,
nationalist?
I'm not a globalist. I'm just saying that we all have got to stop with this fighting and blaming. It is what it is. It's happened. Now we've got to root out the problems and we've got to get rid of them before we can move forward.
Well, you have to address the problem before you can root it out. And
Well,
if we continue going down the path we've gone down for
we're not, Christopher, we're
100
not
plus years,
discussing,
which is following
we're not
the
discussing
international
battle plans. We're just,
Okay. Rule number
It's
one.
not a battle plan. It's just becoming aware.
Rule number one. We're not going to talk about Israel in this space. Period. That's it. Bottom line. End of conversation.
I guess we know where your allegiance lies.
We are talking about our Constitution. This is what
I'm
this is about.
not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about the Jews, the Russians, the Chinese, or anybody else. We're talking about the United States Constitution, and the rest of the world can go fuck itself. How about that, dude?
piss off. Exactly. Yes, sir.
Anywho,
All right, so I want to talk about the Second Amendment and I saw something today with Trump and Pam Bondi talking about taking away guns. Did I see that correctly today, or did anybody else see that?
It was according to Kelly. Well, I'll let Kelly say. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, it's from 7 years ago. That's for when she was talking about the red flag laws in Florida. I mean, we'll have to keep an eye on her, but somebody trudged it out, and I think more to create division and making her look like, oh, she's going to come after her Second Amendment, right? So, but it was an old video, and I don't know why all of a sudden it turned out, but it was getting passed around as if it just happened.
Man, neither one of them have aged at all.
that's what I said on our chat earlier today. Like Pam Bondi, she's gonna be 60 this year. Like she does not look like she could be 30 for all I know.
So I would like to apologize for my abuse of the English language, and I'm sorry.
You're all good.
There's that good old Catholic guilt.
I just hope you get some rest, Chris, and feel better.
This gives him the gumption that he needs to fight off that cold, right, Chris?
Uh-huh.
Feel better, Mr. Philby.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Kim, where were we before we were rudely diverted?
We were talking about the First Amendment and how it's been sort of violated, and then I was kind of going on to the Second Amendment, and I wanted to see what that was all about today because that was ridiculous.
Well,
Um,
I mean,
And then we had breaking news
what's that?
about the vote. So now we kind of need to get back on topic.
So the one of the key points of the First Amendment, especially with respect to freedom of speech, is that the most protected speech is political speech. And when that is stripped from you, you literally have no voice. And it's equally important that people have the right to hear what you have to say as your right to say it.
that gets into the whole freedom of reach thing that we've been battling with.
So, this is not a fully freedom of speech platform.
Well, you can say things, you just may not get heard by anybody.
Well, people have the right to hear.
Yeah, and that argument was used in the Missouri v. Biden case. They discussed that during the appeal process as one of their arguments. So
whatever happened with that case?
It's still going. It's actually going, I believe, under RFK's name, because he enjoined his court case to the original, and when that got appealed up through the courts, the original did. The judge decided that even though RFK had enjoined, he was going to keep it separate until a decision was made on the original. But RFK actually had standing in his case. So it's still going. They're just still in the discovery. That might just go on forever. Who knows?
We haven't really heard anything about the discovery, though.
Oh, we know what the discovery is.
I know.
Most of the Europeans and Australians love the First and Second Amendment, the Canadians as well. They say, you guys have it and we don't. Even my nephew up in Alberta, he was jealous that I could get a pocket knife and he couldn't.
Well, yeah. And then the other thing that you have to look at in the First Amendment is this ridiculous idea about separation of church and state. You have this construct that hopefully is going to be dealt with maybe by this court, and it's insanity to believe that this country was not founded on faith. All of the founding documents express a belief in a higher power. And then you look at our government itself. We have our military, and our military has a chaplain corps. That's not exactly what I would call separation of church and state. You look at our Congress, the House and the Senate. Both of them have their own chaplains. They open each session of Congress with a prayer by the chaplain. And so that's certainly not separation of church and state. You have the inauguration of the president. and the inauguration of the president is open with a prayer and closed with a prayer. That's not separation of church and state.
Seems like they only do that when it's convenient for them.
You know, the purpose of Congress shall pass no law with respect to religion is that the Congress not form a state religion like the
Correct.
Church of England.
Correct.
Which is where they came from. And as you all recall, when the colonists first came to this piece of land, they left because they were religiously oppressed. And their convictions are what started what happened here in our country. And
Do we still have that strong of a religious foundation, right? Like that's something I think it's gotten us into trouble because we've lost some of that.
It depends on who you're talking about. If you're talking about
As a
folks like us,
nation, as a nation.
I think it's found in the Declaration of Independence. It says God is responsible for giving us our life, liberty, and happiness.
I think, Chris, you're trying to explain that the conflict of interest between the church and the state cannot be based on the financial gain or to monopolize one church or with the organization against the government.
Wait a second. The point of the separation of church and state was never to keep the church out of the state. It was to keep the state out of the church, right? So they have convoluted this law to think where preachers shouldn't be preaching from the pulpit. And that is absolutely bogus. If anybody should be preaching like to their people, it's the people who are pastors. Is there a reason you're unmuted and giving me feedback?
I just muted him. Sorry.
It's okay. He can talk. There's just mad feedback. So,
yeah, when you're not talking, Civic, please keep your microphone closed so that other people can talk and there's no feedback. Go ahead, Jen.
My apology.
it's okay. He can go. Go ahead, Civic.
No, I was just saying that in the Declaration that it specifically mentions that God grants us this life, liberty, and happiness that we have, and that what you had said about how it was kind of swayed the other way, where it's the state doesn't have any influence over our religious capacities. I believe that's correct. I think that's a big fallacy that we're kind of been bought into, where the secular movement is what's kind of part of one of those plans that drive us towards our destruction or whatever.
Well, I find it very interesting that the Democrats can preach the gospel of the Democratic Party from pulpits of churches, but God forbid Franklin Graham would utter one word that would have anything to do with politics without losing his 501c3.
Amen.
Amen. And let's remember too where that phrase comes from, because it comes from it's nowhere in the Constitution. It's not in the First Amendment, obviously, because Kim just read it. And instead it originated in a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Association of Connecticut. And in that letter, he used the phrase "wall of separation between church and state." And if I'm correct, at the time it was understood to mean what Jen said, that the state has its duties, its roles, its obligations that it must do, and the church has its, and the two will never intersect.
Well,
What would have been
no. See, that it's not that they won't intersect, right? It's the fact that it was to keep the state out of this church, right? So if we
yes,
go on, okay, let's just go on what we have been taught throughout history, that our country was founded on religious freedom, right? Like
yep,
that's what we were taught. Whether it's true or not, that's debatable, right?
sure,
However, so they did not want the ability for the government to come in and impede on their religious rights, right?
correct,
But the church should have a say, because they're kind of like the litmus test for society, right? Like
yes,
in a Christian nation, you'd look to the church, yet they separated the church from even having a seat at the table to even discuss, and which is why we've seen abortion run rampant, gay marriage run rampant, is
correct.
because the church has been separated from where it's supposed to be by this statement that was made by Thomas Jefferson in a one-off letter.
Correct. And it's not even the letter itself, because the courts actually got this right for years. It was only until a decision, and the name of which escapes me, in 1948, when they started going down this road to now, if you invoke the phrase separation of church and state, because people don't know the context of that phrase and what it originally meant, nowadays they think it means that you can't wear your religion in the public square, that you can't, and so the point of invoking it now is to demoralize you both spiritually and morally, so that you will look to the government as God and not God, and it's not only unbiblical, it's immoral, and it hurts the very fabric that this nation was founded on, because like you mentioned earlier, Jan, it was founded on religious freedom. You look at all the guys who signed the Declaration. There was one Catholic. You had to get the Quakers on board, who were peace lovers. They don't even want war. So yeah, it's like you said, that's certainly debatable, but yeah, that phrase has been totally bastardized, and it and the only way to correct it is to learn the original history of it, like what we're learning now.
Well, I can tell you, my relatives are buried in Quaker cemetery, so I can tell you for a fact that's right.
So we got a few hands. Do we want to hit those, Kim?
Yeah, we'll hit those. I think it's really poignant. It's really poignant that we the further we get away from those things, the more of a mess we seem to find ourselves in. And I mean, the takedown of this country has been a long one, but it has been quite brilliant in the fact that they knew exactly what they needed to dismantle in the American psyche in order to conquer it. So, all right, let's go to Bat Boy, and then we'll go to Plot Not Politics.
Hi, guys. Thanks for letting me have the stage. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So one of the things brought up in terms of the Thomas Jefferson's letter stating a separation of church and state, as was said, it is a bastardized version, but that's what the leftists have been doing since Brown versus Board of Education, which removed the teaching of the Bible and of God in public education, because that's really where it sort of manifested and built blocks upon the leftists, the progressives, and the communists to attack the church and basically the church in the public square at every turn. In 1976, there was a Supreme Court ruling that a lot of people wouldn't think is related to the removal of religious belief, religious teaching within the public square. It was Buckley versus Viejo in 1976, which deemed that money equaled free speech. So you can see what has replaced God in the public square and in terms of political campaigns. It isn't religious rhetoric. It is now material rhetoric in the form of money. So my money equals free speech. I can now donate to campaigns. I can now squelch religious ideas from political and separate it from political ideas. And that's what's been built upon more and more and more. I would love to see a lot of that undone. The problem is that we have precedent law based on, in fact, what I context reading of a letter, um, and that now it has been adopted. It's, if you tell a lie enough times, it has now become truth. And that's what we have now with this idea of separation of church and state. You can still, the idea of practicing your religion, it is all about simply not having the government adopt a government religion. Whereas Democrats, as somebody had mentioned before, Democrats can go into their churches and preach the gospel of the Democrat Party, because Democrats and leftists believe that government is their religion, that government is their God. That's how they're allowed, basically, with impunity, to basically preach political rhetoric within a church. So this is where the big disconnect is coming from, that a lot of people don't seem to see or understand, because they've been conditioned not to. The idea of having God reintroduced in public education, now 2 to 3 generations removed, is a foreign concept, and they will fight you tooth and nail against that idea.
I mean, we can't even
And
get the
so-
10
and so-
Commandments back in there. I mean, it's like, what is your problem with the 10 Commandments? It says, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt, so it's like, we've gone so
They are the
far.
the golden rule for society. It's the golden rules for society. How to conduct yourself within society are based upon religious precepts and the principles that God had given us to how to conduct our lives with each other. And what leftists say is that no, we will not allow that in the public square. If there's a dime, a penny of government money that goes into an institution, then you cannot have these kinds of religious ideas within that institution, because that would be mixing religion with government. And that's and to a leftist, and primarily to a leftist government, which honestly we really are, that is verboten. You can't do it. But it's wrong, and it's built on this lie for a long time.
Kim, let me put it.
So I'll just land my plane there. Thank you.
Kim, let me put a theological point on that real quick, because what you're dealing with here is not, as Bad Boy just described, it's not immoral. Immoral is still a standard, because if something's immoral, that means something else must be moral. No. What you're dealing with is amoral. Amoral is no standard whatsoever, and that's what you're dealing with what Bad Boy was just talking about.
Well, and it's like Jen pointed out, right? It's this separation of church and state is they used that to reverse the relationship, so that the state has basically repressed religion, and basically infiltrated it completely, and the religion has been removed from the state completely. So we're in,
Yeah, but look what the state. Let me just interject one small thing. But look what the government has replaced and injected itself into. It has become the mother and father of a vast swath of a demographic of people in the United States.
Because we've allowed it.
It has replaced. That's right. We have allowed it, but understand how government has injected itself as the overlord, as the overseer into your life, in your daily life. It now, and through taxation, it forces people to work in order to pay taxes. And if you don't, you suffer consequences. What does that mean? It means that if you have children, you can't rear them properly, because now the state must do it, because you are working to pay those taxes. I mean, I can go down the list, but this is how insidious government has allowed itself to infiltrate into your life on a daily basis, completely displacing God and religion, or just a simple idea of the precepts of a religion, of any kind of religion, into your life, because because government must become the overarching practice of what you believe God to be. And that's why you see millennials and Gen Z turn to government for just about everything in their life. They want free healthcare, they want free housing, they want everything, because they believe now through government conditioning that everything comes from government. Government is God, and that's what they've done to now 2 successive generations, and that's the problem. And I don't know how you can undo that without having, frankly, a revolution where you need to start all over again.
I feel like we are in a revolution right now. It doesn't have to be a war, right? But we are seeing that right now. We're seeing the dismantling of, a lot of these big, huge.
The administration state.
Exactly. So we've got it. We've got to do this in steps, and it's going to be painful. Hopefully it's not going to be like, kill each other painful, but it's going to be a painful process. And we've got this cabal of Democrats and Republicans and this bureaucracy that has overtaken us to the point where these people that had, been in these government jobs, they think they are in charge. They think that they are the ones who they form their own government inside of the government that we're finding.
Because they were empowered to.
Exactly.
As far as I understand it, there's.
Oh, sorry. That was my fault.
That was my fault. No, you're good. You're good. As far as I understand it, there's about 7 or 8 steps to an organic revolution. And on purpose, we've been taken through the first 3 or 4 steps over and over again, only to repeat at the beginning, kind of in a way to train the population or, invoke the cynical side of ourselves to not be able to see past and towards let's say the progressive or the solution, or, to not give in to the whims of our cynicism or whatever. So we've been taken through the first 3 or 4 steps over and over again. And so when you say we're at that point, I think it's we are as a community having to see through those couple steps into it truly coming to our own idea of revolution. Because I just have to speak up because this is the second time.
No one's advocating for revolution.
Right,
I would
right,
argue,
right, right, right. No, no.
that our country is going through a restructuring, not a revolution.
Right. The only reason I'm speaking up because this is the second time I heard something about revolution in the sense, and I just want to say that it comes to that point on an emotional level because we've been taken through this over and over again in a cycle.
Yeah,
but
so they do it to appease us, they take us through, you're right, those first steps to kind of, okay, we've got to quell the people and make them think that they're getting their power back and that they're restricting us, and they've been playing with us. But never before in our history have we actually had, gone in and opened up the books. And what we're finding is, we were right about a lot of things. And that's got to be the first step, is dismantling this, crazy spending and, the nefarious things that have come out of this privacy classified, they want to know everything that we're doing, but they classify everything that they're doing. So I think, again, we're in a different place than we've ever been before, just because we're seeing the exposure.
I love that they can't just call it a conspiracy theory too. They can argue all they want that we're not allowed to look at this information and we shouldn't be putting it out or whatever. But their whole path from the past of just saying that all these things that we've been talking about for years is just, crazy right-wing conspiracy theory. But we're we have the receipts. So, I mean, it's awesome that we have that. Anyway, I just wanted to say that real quick. I'm going to drop down, Kim. I got to run. So if you want to give away the co-host to someone else, that'd be cool.
Yeah, Jen said she'd take it. And we got Plot is next on the hit parade.
Yep.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the real quick, I just wanted to chime in on this because it's something that I've looked into, and it, you've got to understand that that amendment came out of the 30 Years' War. And if no one knows about the 30 Years' War, then you need to look into it because it was the religious persecution of multiple different religions. You had like Lutheran versus Catholic versus all different kinds, and it engulfed Europe, led basically by Rome at that time, and it divided Europe. And all those people that saw, and this is a number that everyone needs to know, approximately 8 million people died due to that religious persecution. And a lot of people in Europe said, I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to flee to this new place because I don't want that. And you're talking first or second degree of their descendants are saying, hey, my parents taught me all about this. We're not going to let anything like that happen here. So, whatever religion you want to have, you can have it. We don't want to get involved in a religious war. We want everyone to be free. You are equal to all, choose to worship as you please. And then that was the entire reason that that government in 1897, 1898 moved forward and said, yes, this is what we're going to put into paper. This is what we're going to make happen because we don't want to see the things that we have lived through, escaped from, come here to our land.
Wait,
So,
you mean 1787?
uh,
Because you said
yeah,
1887,
I'm
and
sorry.
that's way off.
Yes, I'm sorry. 18 or I'm correction, 1787. Yes. Um, I'm a I teach military history, so I've got dates and all kinds of things running through my head at all the time. I apologize.
I took military history in high school. I went to a military school, so I totally respect you. Thank you.
Thank you. But that was what it was built off of. We don't want to see that division. We don't want to see that separation. We want all of our people to be one people, and it doesn't matter what you believe. And you can do this or that or the other, but in when it all comes down, when rubber meets the road, every one of us are the same as Americans, regardless of what your faith may believe. And that's where it came from because they had seen what was happening. And if none of you have seen it, I would suggest you look it up. There are several wood cuttings and different paintings, and they are very graphic. And I'm going to apologize right now from the beginning if you look it up, but it is tens of hundreds of people being hung in trees just simply because they didn't believe in the accepted religion of that time. And it was horrific, absolutely horrific. And all these people that are escaping from that said, never again. We don't want it to happen here. So that's basically where I'm coming from. And I'm gonna step down now. Thank you for giving me a chance.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Well, I think it's definitely frustrating and ironic that we are a melting pot, but it seems that with each passing year, um, they're trying to change this country into something that it shouldn't be. And
Well, and Kim, just because our country was founded on religious freedom, that you can practice whatever religion you want, you have the freedom to do that. The basis of our nation was a Christian country, right? Like we are endowed by our creator, certain unalienable rights like the pursuit of life, liberty, and property. So, like, I mean, you're welcome to practice your religion, but the undeniable fact is that America itself is a Christian nation, and if y'all want to get up here and debate me on that, like, go right ahead.
I have a question.
Just a sec. I got
Sure.
some housekeeping we need to do. Kim, Christopher would like to come back up, and so if he
If he
promises,
could get on stage and tell me it's not like, don't mention the Jews and actually have a constructive conversation, he's welcome to come up. But if he wants to get up here and blame Israel and all of that, like, I'm not putting up with that shit, period. Call me what you want.
okay,
This is why she's the chief enforcer.
So if he can get up here and behave himself, I'm welcome to bring him up. But dude, if you're going to come up here and blame the Jews, I don't want to hear about it.
all right.
Go ahead, Dr. Angela. Well,
Hey guys, I just really wanted to second what Jen said. And while we believe in individual religious belief, we all come together under our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. So if you can't agree to that, you don't belong here. I don't care what your religion is. I'm just saying.
Thanks, Dr. Angela.
I second that motion. The Ramsey Youssef went to his mosque with the blind sheikh who got the life sentence as well for the Trade Center bombing that my friend Carol DeLuca was at. God, you got out of there. But yeah, if you're against America and you cannot follow the American our rules, then you don't need to be here. I agree.
I have a question. Sharia, how do you say it?
Sharia.
Sharia law.
Sharia law. Do you know that in Texas, our tax dollars are being used to build a 400-acre for those who celebrate that? I thought it was against the law in our
Well, you
country.
guys also passed a resolution in Texas that no one could, Sharia law is not accepted. So why somehow this thing is being allowed is way beyond my understanding.
I'm not in Texas. I was just reading about it last night. Somebody sent it to me. And I said, what? This
Because
is
that's
the
your
whole-
freedom of religion, right? Like, guys, this is the thing of what
No,
people don't
Jen,
understand. Like,
no, they're building it with the expectation that they're going to, within their own walls, follow Sharia law. But no human being living on this earth that is part of the United States of America, you can't build a little conclave on a piece of America and say you're going to live against our Constitution. That is unconstitutional.
And you
Yeah, 'cause
certainly
they
can't
also
use our
s-
tax
whoa,
dollars
whoa.
to do it.
Well,
Well,
hold on
they're
a second.
also-
Hold on a second. Okay. You do have other religious groups, right? That do have, like, not that I agree with it, guys. Like, I'm not agreeing with it, right? But like, that follow their own laws within the United States.
But those
Right,
laws
like-
aren't in direct violation of our Constitution, Jen.
I mean, you could make the argument that some of the laws that certain groups adhere to are unconstitutional, but it's part of their
Sharia
religion.
law says you can
I mean, you have companies in America that are Sharia compliant.
Now,
In
are
New
they,
Jersey.
are they
And
gonna
again,
stone- are they gonna
if
stone
they
people?
impose any portion of their law that goes against the Constitution, then I would disagree with that completely. Again, saying it's Sharia compliant, maybe they follow some of the Sharia laws, but when they start to degrade the women and do some of the things that they do, that is against our Constitution. Even if you built a wall around your little compound, if it's still in the United States of America, I don't care how big your wall is, you're still here. Those people within those walls still are due the rights of the Constitution.
But Dr. Asia, I'm not disagreeing with you, right? But like, this is a case where they have used our laws against us and used that cutout for freedom of religion to exploit certain groups. I mean, look at the FLDS in southern Utah, which still performs polygamy, right? Like, still adheres to polygamy. Totally against the Constitution, right?
And
But there
that was
are
actually-
groups-
that was-
Satan. Am I allowed to like sacrifice people? No.
Yeah, like,
So it goes against the Constitution, right? So Sharia law is not acceptable It's not.
I'm not saying it's acceptable,
No,
Adam.
no,
what I'm
I'm not.
saying is
Well,
they've
it doesn't. It's not
exploited our
compatible.
laws against us.
It's not compatible with our U.S. Let me rephrase
A man can
Well,
beat
hold
his
on. You have
wife.
Islamberg in the Catskills, right? Where they are literally practicing shit like this.
Okay, if they're
Right? Like
practicing
this
Islam
isn't
is
like
one thing.
no,
Practicing
but
Sharia
Adam,
law
no, you're
is a different thing.
convoluting what I'm saying. They are not just doing. They're not just having their call to prayer 6 or 7 times a day. How many times they call it? Like the people within the
5
walls
times,
of
yeah.
Islamberg are performing and doing things that are unconstitutional, and our constitution is allowing it, saying that they are under the freedom of religion.
But Jen, that's
Okay.
where I believe that we need to collectively, as a Congress and president, come together and have a discussion about this. Because in
100%.
my
You can
humble
marry
opinion,
an
my dog wants
infant.
dinner.
If your religion violates the Constitution, then
It's not free.
It's not compatible.
It's
That's
not
it.
free.
A woman.
That's
you need
right,
to
Adam.
leave.
That's
Go
right.
back to your home country if you want to practice that crap.
Yeah,
You're
but
violating constitutional rights of Americans, bottom line. So you belong in jail or go back home. You know,
It says
not
you
here.
can.
It takes a
says
man.
you can marry an infant girl and then consummate
not
the
in
marriage when
America.
she's 9 years old. No, this is Sharia law.
Well, they
Okay?
need to take their Sharia. Ilhan Omar and any Sharia lovers can take their Sharia and go
I think
shove
she
it in
agrees
another
with you,
place.
Adam.
Adam, I'm on your side on this one. I am just.
She agrees with you, buddy.
I know she does, but they can
Yeah.
take that. It's not compatible. And I come from a Muslim family, like
And they
Muslim
can
Christian family.
Adam,
So,
who were you going to sacrifice?
Oh, in the Church of Satan? I don't know.
You can beat your
Next person
wife.
to piss me off, for God's sake. I'm just kidding.
Y'all,
But
Sharia is a word that triggers Adam, just so everybody knows that.
I kind of picked up on that.
because people don't understand. They want to correlate it with Muslims, and my aunt's a Muslim, and she does not practice Sharia law. She
Okay,
hates
but
Sharia law.
Adam, what
Like-
we are trying to say, right, is
Yes.
those people have used our laws against us and are currently operating
shouldn't
in
be
the
allowed.
United States,
It
which
shouldn't
is
be allowed. They
why.
should be
Okay, but
deported.
we cannot. Okay, again, right? We cannot go after one group of people. We cannot stop. We need to stop.
we're going
singling
after
groups
people
of
that
people
violate
out
our
'cause we
That's
call
the
it
misnomer.
racist.
That's the misnomer that
We're
he's
going after
explaining.
people that are violating the Constitution, regardless of their religion. We don't care. You violate the Constitution, you're gonna friggin' get.
And,
you don't
and
belong
guys,
here.
it's
You
not
don't
one group of
belong here,
people.
That's it.
It's not one group of people. I don't even care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you're a devil worshiper. Your beliefs cannot cross over into something that goes against our Constitution. That's why we're going after these people that have been sacrificing children. We're going to find them and we're going to hold them accountable to our laws. Nor do we want to.
And that goes to Adam's point where we're going to sacrifice people.
Mr.
I mean, maybe they're on to something. I'm just saying.
Let's go.
Millstones? I'll start a millstone company. I don't care. Right here in Florida. Anybody want to invest in millstones in the Gulf of America?
I'll supply the hemp rope.
All right. That's collaboration.
All right. Can we let Christopher go? His hands up. Christopher, go.
All right, thank you guys. I appreciate your love of the Constitution of the United States, the First Amendment.
Wait, hold on. You heard what I said before. Like I'm
yes,
not
ma'am.
putting.
Yes, ma'am. I give you a thumbs up.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Sergeant, if anything. I actually worked for a living. But
Sergeant. There you go, sir. Go ahead.
So free speech, that's a tricky one, huh? Because it's crazy. You just told me, I mean, you guys are advocates of the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all the amendments, yet
you really can't
you
help
just
yourself.
told
Are you
me,
attacking
no,
me?
I'm not going to say it. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying you guys, you have restricted my free speech and
No, I
the
didn't restrict
ability
your free
for.
speech. Guess what, honey? Guess what?
I know,
You
it's
are at
true,
my.
but-
Whoop. Nope, you're not going to accuse me of that. So listen here. You, sir, have the free speech to go and open a space up if you'd like. Anybody can go in there. Anybody who wants to go talk about what Christopher wants to talk about, you are free to leave this space and go into his space that he can open up because he has the freedom of speech. This is my space, right? And guess what? I get to decide if I'm going to sit here and let you attack a group of people and single them out when there is a lot more people in this world who we all need to go after. It's not just one group of people. So if you can help yourself and not mention a single certain group of people, then you are more than welcome to talk here, sir. But if you'd like to talk about that group of people, I would really encourage you to go open up open up a space and exercise your freedom of speech. Proceed.
All right, I won't talk about that group of people. I'll just talk about the group of people that you guys seem to be okay with talking about, and that's Islam or Sharia law.
Don't include me in that because I'm pretty sure I literally sat there and said, do not single out a group of people just like I did.
Exactly. I got you.
And
I
me
appreciate it.
with the Muslim
So-
background that you're speaking of is speaking against that. Does that
And
make sense?
I got many experiences in my life. I got many Muslim friends.
Stick to the Constitution.
They don't practice Sharia law. Sharia law is very draconic. It's very based in old world ways. I've been to the Middle East. I've experienced it. Being Muslim does not mean you're Islamic. That it's
I don't think
Muslim
any of us
is
said anything
an
about Muslim or
ethnicity.
Islamic. We were talking
Okay,
about
well,
Sharia law.
Well,
people
let him continue. I like
they
where
get
he's
it
going.
conflated. They
He's
get it conflated.
making good points.
Muslim is an ethnicity. Islamic is a theology. So it's religion versus DNA. So anybody could be Islamic, but not anybody can be a Muslim. So I just wanted to square that away. And I wanted to just, say, hey, I love free speech. I love the Second Amendment. I think everybody should constitutionally carry. You know what scares me though? And I hope this panel will really, really hone in on this one, is that they are going to take away your firearms and they're going to do it by infringement, by saying if you don't have the mental capacity or if you have a mental health disorder, you can no longer carry. And who's the determiner of this? And let me tell you one more thing.
So,
You all
Christopher, wait, can
remember
I
the
stop you right
purge
there?
of the military during COVID-19? How those that stood up against it were purged out? Those were patriots. Those were people that did not take unlawful orders. Those are people that respected their autonomy. Those are people that respected, the Constitution. And so they were purged. The only people left are compliant. And they're going to continue to do that because those people that left, the patriots, they've now been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
So,
And
wait,
that is a
Christopher, I have a
mental health
question for you.
disorder, and they are no longer allowed to carry a firearm. The most well-trained, most patriotic, abled individuals are no longer allowed to defend their nation because of us.
Okay, so Christopher, I got a question for you. Are you a Trump supporter?
No, I do not
No,
support.
exactly. I knew it.
Well, I don't
You gave
support
yourself.
any
Hold
political
hold
party.
on. You gave yourself away when you came up here telling me that they're gonna come and take our guns.
Oh, well,
Because I'm pretty sure that.
they will.
Hold up. I'm pretty sure that President Trump and his administration is some of the most pro 2A people that we've ever had in that office. Now, if you would have talked to me 6 months ago,
funny.
I might have agreed with you, but I totally disagree
I'm
with the fact
laughing
that
inside on that.
hold up, Christopher, don't make me mute you. That the fact that they're coming currently to get our guns. Where I do agree with you though is they are going to, the Democrats, the ones who actually want to take your guns, they are going to use that mental capacity argument. And they tried to do that in many cases. So I do agree with you there. But what I will say is that President Trump is very pro 2A. He's shown that the people who he's put in place, especially the ATF, Kash Patel, very pro 2A? Really, how isn't Kash Patel pro 2A?
Oh, I'm not saying he is or he isn't, but I love how just people ride the coattails of individuals and act like they know them when they really don't.
Oh, wait, are you talking about me? Because I actually know those people. I've known President Trump since I was 16 years old. So do you really want to go toe for toe with me right now?
No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
okay.
didn't think so.
I'll
You know
play
what? I've
chess
had
with
just
you though,
about,
but
listen,
so
I've had just, oh, you're gone. I've had enough of your shit. Go open up your space and let everybody else want to go in there and listen to this fool. Adam, jump in
Well,
here.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
real quick before
Yeah,
you
go ahead, Chris.
for the record, President Trump reinstated all those people with back pay. So,
All of them?
yep.
Nice. Good to hear.
All the
You know, that's what I
military-
thought.
You talking about military, Chris?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what he was
Awesome,
talking about.
awesome.
But he was
That-
saying some of them were diagnosed with PTSD, so they couldn't be re-enlisted. But I don't know.
But please understand, many of them choose to be diagnosed in order to get disability payments. So that's a choice.
Wow, that's interesting take.
Well, and to get their medical, well, no, but on the other hand, right, why there is so many like mental health issues in the military is because of the way the medical system is set up. You have a lot of veterans who are afraid to go get their PTSD taken care of because they're afraid that the doctors are going to take away those Second Amendment rights that are so dear to them. So, like, I think there's like a huge, there needs to be a way for members of the military to come forward about their mental health issues without automatically getting their Second Amendment rights taken away from them.
Agreed. And Jen, I think we need to have a better way of caring for folks, right? Just medicating isn't a solution every time. And it may be a short term solution, but it's certainly not a long term solution when it comes to helping people with PTSD. That is not a solution.
I think that we're on the precipice of exploring solutions that would work. With the all the innovation that we're seeing and the studying that we're seeing of the psychedelics and those types of alternative medicines. So I think that I'm excited that we're going to be using more of the things that we find in nature in order to help us with our traumas.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what that guy was talking about. Yeah, he didn't know what he was talking about in regards to Muslims and Islamic or anything like that. Muslims are not a people. They are either converts from Christianity or, and they believe in Islam, but Sharia law is a sect of rules, a set of rules that are created by despots and rulers and, corrupt clerics that want to oppress people. So that's where I'd clarify on that. And some people choose to follow it. As we read in the other space, what was it, yesterday? Manic Monday, that we went through the Sharia, the countries and levels of Sharia law that they practice. But yeah, Sharia law, because of its aspects of oppression, is not compatible with the US. You could be a Muslim, but if you want to practice Sharia law, that's against the Constitution and you're violating people's constitutional rights. So yeah, it's not compatible. Yeah. Don't try that.
And literally
Hey, Kim.
To your point, you come to the US because you want something different. If you want Sharia law, there are many countries out there that support Sharia law. So you have other places that you could go.
Good luck and enjoy it. It's not going to be good conditions.
Kim, can you follow the pissed off texting account, please, with the American Mission account?
Oh, yep. Hi, PO'd. Nice to see you.
Howdy, friends and neighbors.
God bless Texas.
Where have you been?
Hey, I'm in Texas. Hey, I walk into a bank with a weapon and they don't bat an eye. But I'm in little South Texas town, so everybody knows that if there's a problem, I'll draw. But if there's not a problem, it stays in the holster. Pure and simple. It's just that simple. All you gotta do is act right. Leave me the hell alone, and life is good for everybody. But Sharia law sucks. I mean, Sharia law is based on men being the master race, and I'm master race, master gender. Let me put something practical out there. I perfectly and 100% sustain the fact that females are the master gender in the human species, and this is my logic behind it. Because if men had to bear children, every child would be an only child. Okay. Now, I'm practical enough to where I see one of my friends doing it. I say, I ain't doing that shit. It ain't happening. I don't think so, Tim. And yeah, the human race would cease to exist if it weren't for females being as strong as they are. And that's just the bottom line. Life is too short to think otherwise. That is my logical approach to this particular topic. But yeah, Sharia sucks.
Well,
I mean, when a woman gets raped and she gets accused of coming on to him and it's her damn fault. Man, that's crazy. I worked for the state of Texas penal system for a very brief period of time. And I told these numbnuts was that I didn't want to know why you were here. The hands that worked for me and, the other hands in the maintenance department, because that's what I do. I fix broke shit. But I didn't want to know why they were here. And this little fella in the back raises his hand. He goes, "Why is that, boss?" Well, let's just say I have opinion. Well, I can you be more specific? I'll never forget that because he was, can I be more of an ocean? Yeah, okay, brother. Facts are facts. If you're here because you cooked crack or stole a car, did something stupid like that, drove too fast, too many tickets, even if it was drunk driving, hey, uh, the difference between you and me is the fact I didn't get caught. But if you're here because you forced yourself on a woman or a child, as far as I'm concerned, you should be dead because the only way to fix that is for you to not exist because you can't incarcerate that out of anybody. I mean, those tendencies will still be there when you get out 40 freaking years later. So nobody is safe in your presence. Best thing for you to do is cease to exist. So yeah, that's where I'm at. But and
well,
Sharia law is
I
all
love
about
your
that.
stance on women. I do think that we are the superior gender. However, we also need to remember our place because if we don't remember our place, then we don't work as a society.
Where would this place be, dog? You got to
God put me
elaborate
on
on
this
that.
earth.
Okay, I have to know, what was he in prison
Hey, she
for?
said it.
What was he in prison for? Mr. Pacific Ocean.
Oh, I have no clue because he was
Oh, I
one of
thought,
yeah, he was one of those that told me. Well, it was kind of funny because after that exchange in front of all my peers, the lock and key guy, the AC guy, the plumber. Well, I was actually the plumber, the electrician, all that sort of stuff, the boiler guy. Everybody in there said, "Oh yeah, man, I cooked crack, I did this, yeah, I sold drugs, I stole a car, I took money from my grandma, stuff like that." Nobody in there. However, knowing full well that 2/3 of the inmate population at the facility I worked at were in there for sex offenses, I mean, I knew better. But the best thing for me to do is not know, therefore, I would not form a judgment against them and cause problems for myself because I'm one of those that if I know, well, somebody needs to really clock you in with a right hook. I mean, life's too short for that shit. You don't force yourself on a woman or a child. I mean, I was raised in South Texas where you take your hat off in the house. You damn sure don't wear it at the table. You stand up when a woman stands up at the table. Anytime she stands up, that's what you do. You pull the chair out. You open the door for her. That's what you do because it's the right thing to do. And it's not that you're capitulating to the fact that she's female. It's a show of respect. It's a show of honor that what they do is beyond your capabilities, and I'm man enough to accept that. Man's got to know his limitations, and that's one of mine. I could never be a chick. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. There are a lot of other ones out there who think they can. I mean, forgive the phrase, but I mean, chicks with dicks just does not compute in my world, and vice versa. But simple facts are simple facts. Logic is logic. Application of logic is where we're going now. And I implore everybody to get on board, get with the program, ride this particular way, because if we don't and we fall off our board, we're going to lose our country because where Texas goes, so does the country. And Texas is in trouble right now, and we need your help. We've got Burroughs. He's a walking, talking piece of equine fecal matter who runs the Texas House right now, and he's actually appointed Democrat vice chairs. Who in the hell does that?
Yeah, Texas legislature is purely a mess. That is for sure.
Isn't it though? And we got the Cyclop in there, and he's been censured, so chances are his political history is, or his political future is over with. But there's a lot more that needs to happen. There is a rhino removal project space that I was in a while back. Dude, I was excited. I was actually pacing in my shop listening to this thing because it was just freaking awesome. And I'm getting on board. I'm a precinct committeeman in my little county in South Texas. And I implore everybody to, wherever you live, hook up with the Republican Party and don't go in there guns a-blazing. Go in there and listen. Because the best way to find out who your enemies are is to pay attention to what they do, what they say, how they act, and all that sort of thing. Because you would be surprised when you speak up, be calm about it, be easy about it, but be truthful. Bottom line, be truthful. However brutal it is, be truthful. You would be surprised how many people in that room will follow you out when that meeting's over with, say, dude, I agree with everything you said. And you get a little coalition together and you can take back the conservative party to where it belongs. Leave me the hell alone. Government, leave me the hell alone. I love my guns. I love my beer. I love my dogs. Just go away and no more property taxes. I'll land it there because I could talk all night on this.
Leave you alone, but you stay involved. That's what it is, right? You can't be left alone if you don't get involved to make sure that they're going to leave you alone.
You know, I can get on board with that. Like, honestly, I inadvertently tried to define the line between the First and the Second Amendment, where, you know, on some philosophical level, like seeing my mind as a weapon as a last resort. Because my story runs a little deep, where like it's kind of one of the things. Like, if I were to have been left alone, like that would have been it. But like I was like 4 years old back in like 1995, and I realized that there was a high chance that our telecommunication systems were being surveilled. So like I picked up the house phone, right, and I started talking on dial tone as if somebody was listening. And so I kind of caught my mind as a weapon to use against all these individuals that would have been nefarious actors, keeping and holding those communications.
Yeah, I like that mind as a weapon thing, most definitely. That's why
All right, let's
if you
get
know how to
to
use it, you know.
let's get to plot, not politics, and then we'll go to Jeff and Christopher wants to come back up here.
We also have what hell? I guess he dropped.
Who?
There was a guy that had his hand up, and I guess he's gone.
Well, we got three people with their hands up. We got Plot, we got Jeff, and we got Adam.
Honestly, he was
Go ahead.
we gave him another chance and he got up and immediately started going after us. Like, why do we have to bring him back up just because he's requesting?
I'm not bringing him back up.
Everybody
I just
doesn't
saw
get
him pop up.
everything they want.
I'm not bringing him back up. I didn't bring him up first time.
I wasn't talking about him. I was talking about some other guy. But that's all right.
He can
Well,
open
one of
his
the
space. I'll
secrets to
even put
winning-
it up in the nest for him. Send people there.
One of the secrets to winning this game is knowing your enemy. You got to pay attention to what they say, how they act, their body language, their mannerisms, everything. That's how you win. If you know the plot of your enemy, that's how you come out victorious. I watch CNN from time to time. Don't hold it against me, just because from time to time I need a laugh. You know, that people could be so stupid and illogical about life. But simple fact of the matter is you got to know your enemy. So I implore you to let these numbnuts talk, because all they do is dig their own hole and get stuck in it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and typically we will, but you know, this is a space for civics discussion, and you know, we want to keep on topic and not derail. So go ahead, Jeff, and then Adam.
That's fair enough, darling. I promise that's fair enough.
we're talking civics, but the point got around to, the major cities such as Houston, Dallas, El Paso, San Antonio. They're all Democrat, like Chicago, New York City, and LA. The only way to turn those cities red is to break the Department of Education in those cities as far as their political machine that's coming out of the schools. I think that they just indoctrinate the kids into their social democratic communist views, and it causes them to vote against America.
Oh yeah, that's part of their plot.
And that's the bottom line. These cities are in terrible shape. San Francisco, Baltimore, Philadelphia, among all those I just listed, plus hundreds of more that are controlled by the Democrat political machine. And they use the schools, the unions, and the colleges to indoctrinate our children
with our money.
And
with
that's
our money.
the problem. They with our money, exactly, like the $200 million that was supposed to go to the North Carolinians that went to the migrants. They undermine us in every possible way, and I'm so glad that Doge is working on that for us. Absolutely.
I agree with you. And, our good friend Alvin at Courage is a Habit and Jennifer Williams talk all the time about how the communist Marxist plot is through the children. That's how they'll get our guns. And I wanted to bring this up because Siobhan Fleet, she did Mao's America. Her count got canceled today, as a matter of fact. But she talks a lot about how it was the youth that overthrew for Mao, and they killed the teachers and the parents, so that's how they get us. That's how they're doing it, is through our children.
You guys were there when Honey Badger did a space with her. That was so cool. That was a good space.
Yeah.
I like her. She's awesome.
Hey Kim, how much longer are you going to keep this going?
I probably ended it at 10, or what time is it? 9:43. Yeah, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
You could do
Where
it.
y'all at? It's 8:45 here.
We're to Florida.
Don't mess with Texas.
It's 8 here.
Awesome.
By the way, Game Tech is reporting that the reason the files aren't coming out is because there is an open murder investigation into something to do with Epstein, I suppose.
Yeah, he shot himself in the back of the head. Go figure.
No, he hung himself apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, so what?
Like
what?
a foot and a half off the ground.
Wait, what? There. So
is it that week already?
They've come up with an excuse to not release him, huh?
So what Game Tech is saying? Hold on, I'll read you exactly what he said. Hold on.
Expect more to follow.
Breaking. Breaking. There is an active murder investigation relating to Epstein. That's the holdup.
Yeah,
He was killed by a cellmate. One of his cellmate. He was in general population, and the inmates were threatening him with killing him unless they paid him to protect him. And they said that his cellie killed him.
but
That's
he
so
was
convenient.
in by himself.
Yeah, like he was in solitary, and the guards, right? The cameras were broken. The guards were not the usual guards who were supposed to be there. Like, I'm pretty sure it was Hillary Clinton that came and did it herself. Like, just saying.
How long has it been that they kept telling us that he committed suicide?
Well, I can tell you that I was in ACJ, Allegheny County Jail, 2019. And I was coming back to coming over my suppression of all these instances in my past where I had like come up with narratives and like plots like within our wider world. So I was actually in jail at the time, like in front of the speaker system, coming up with the Epstein scheme. So like the whole narrative behind him killing himself and it the guards being removed and the fucking cameras being off. Like, that's all something that came out of my mouth before it had happened.
Shoot, Pablo Escobar walked right out in riot gear. 4 guys came in, gave him a suit, put him in it, and they all walked right out.
Go ahead, Adam.
I just wanted to, I about flipped my lid hearing that there was like some compound in Texas with they're practicing Sharia. That they, what they're trying to do is it's a whole Soros friggin' thing. What they did to Europe when they've got Sharia courts in England, which is like ridiculous. They want to do that here in America.
We already
so
have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what
Adam,
I'm saying. That's who's behind it.
this is
These
this
people, these CFR, Rockefeller, all these globalist punks.
this is
They're doing this on purpose.
this is not a problem. All you have to do is buy yourself a whole shitload of hogs and surround the town, and eventually they'll move out.
Mr. Philbies, that's your job. That's your new plot.
Or
get a pig launcher,
or
start launching it at their compound.
Or a bunch of Christians and Jews can move in because, they can't stop other people from living in the area.
I'm sorry. Which Christians and Jews are going to go live behind that wall?
Well,
compound.
You know how they have, what is that called when they try to keep certain types of people out of certain neighborhoods? Isn't that illegal?
Yeah, it's called redline.
Redlining. So you get a whole gaggle of everybody, just Hindus. They all want to move in.
Send all the LGBTQs there.
Right.
They'll protest. Send them there to go
Yeah,
protest.
get that Dylan Mulvaney dude and tell him that we'll give him a whole truckload of Budweiser if he goes down.
Trans Tifa moves in.
We're devolving now. Oh God. No, but that's good ideas. I like them.
You guys know who General Pershing is?
No.
Well, General
Trump likes
Pershing was the guy. No. General Pershing was the guy, a general, who actually, supposedly, I say allegedly, I don't know if there's any truth in it, but it just kind of jumped into my head. It happens from time to time. That dipped bullets in pig fat to fight Islamic, extremists and stuff like that, and they gave up because if you have pig fat in your system, you don't get to see Muhammad and the 77 virgins. And quite frankly, I'm kind of like Oscar there. That
Wait a second.
Hey, man,
General Pershing was just brought up in a completely different manner not that long ago.
Really?
This is not the
Did
first
my
time
memory-
I'm hearing General Pershing. It was for something else. I didn't know about
No,
the
the
pig fat
Ukrainians
thing.
were doing that.
Did my memory fail me? Am I right, General Pershing? Isn't that the guy who did the bullets in there so the Muslims wouldn't
Oh,
fight?
I'm saying I've never heard this story. I didn't know that story.
I heard it
Yeah,
coming
it's-
from the Azovs in regards to when Putin was bringing in what's that country that's next to him? He has like an ally. He's a Muslim leader. What's that country
Belarus?
that's no.
Somalia
No,
pirates.
not
the
Somalia.
song was the
Moldova?
It's
Somalia
right next to
pirates.
Russia.
Moldova?
He used the guy to clear out some of these Islamic extremists, ISIS, out of the area. He used him. He's the leader of that country. I'm forgetting the guy's name off the top of my head, or what the hell the name of the country is. I'll look it up.
Well, I don't know about these.
He's
but-
allies with Putin though, and he's a Muslim leader of a country, and he helped him in clearing out some of them. But Putin also used him to go into Ukraine. So the Azovs were dipping in pig fat, for them, because they were helping Putin, go fight the Azovs.
We have breaking news.
Go for it.
Statement from CEO Devin Nunes responds to ruling on Brazil attempt to censor Rumble. Sarasota, Florida, February 25th. Global News Wire. Devin Nunes, CEO and chairman of the Trump Media and Technology Group Corp, NASDAQ, DJT, and TMTG issued the following statement today after a U.S. federal judge ruled that TMTG and Rumble, NASDAQ, RUM, are under no obligation to comply with orders from a Brazilian Supreme Court justice attempting to force Rumble to take down U.S.-based users' accounts. This is a major victory for free speech and free expression online, said TG CEO Devin Nunes. The ruling confirms that would-be dictators in any country cannot force Trump Media or Rumble to censor their opponents. We congratulate our partner Rumble on its principled stand for freedom. The ruling issued from the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Florida is a response to an emergency motion jointly filed by TMTG and Rumble after Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes issued gag orders against Rumble and imposed daily fines on the company, threatened Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovsky and with criminal charges, and ordered to shut down Rumble's platform in Brazil. While U.S. federal judge ruled that TMTG and Rumble's motion for a temporary restraining order was not yet ripe, the court left open the opportunity for TMTG and Rumble to refile the motion and stated that it stands ready to take further action in the event that anyone seeks to enforce orders in the United States without following the proper procedures.
Wow, that's wild. The country I was thinking of is Chechnya, and the leader is Ramzan Kadyrov, and he's there. I guess he's a Sunni Muslim leader over there, and he cleared out all like ISIS people and like extremists with Putin in Chechnya, because Putin didn't want that crap around, and they went out. They cleared that up in Russia as well. So any sort of extremists, sort of Islamists, if you want to call them that, yeah, definitely they work together, and that's where that instance came up where they're dipping bullets in pig fat. The Azovs were doing that, and I don't know about it being related to any general in the U.S., but that might have done it. But yeah, that's as far as I know of that sort of type of instance.
Well, so I am going to start wrapping this up, and I did want to play this clip. It's about 10 minutes, but it's from Richard Mayberry, who writes the Uncle Eric books, and that's what we're going to delve into a little bit for our civics. So I wanted to, does anybody want to say anything before I do that?
I just wanted to mention that I wanted to lighten things up. Lucas shared us something very funny, and I put it up in the Jumbotron if you wanted to look.
Yeah, I saw that, Kelly. That was good. I love that one.
Oh my God.
I should probably mention my name is Eric.
Oh, nice to meet you, Eric. All right, guys. Thank you for everybody for coming. Really appreciate all of you. I hope you'll stick around to listen to this. I'm really excited about getting into these books. From what I've read, they are going to be extremely helpful as we continue to learn about our civic duties so that we can, retain our country, our republic. And thank you to my co-hosts.
Form of a series of letters from an economist to his niece or nephew named Chris. Chris is 14 and beginning to think about the larger world beyond home, family, and school. For the first time, Chris is reading the daily newspaper and encountering subjects such as economics, law, geopolitics, business, and investments. Chris is intelligent enough to realize an understanding of these subjects is extremely important for every individual, but doesn't have the foggiest idea where to begin or how to separate the wheat from the chaff. As an economist, Uncle Eric deals with these subjects every day. Chris writes to him asking question after question. Uncle Eric writes back, doing his best to answer in ways that someone who knows nothing about these subjects can understand. Uncle Eric knows Chris will receive some of this information from school courses, so he concentrates on information schools omit. As you read over Chris's shoulder, much of what you will encounter will be fresh to you. You and Chris together will be exploring a whole new world. I hit on the idea of writing these books in the form of letters to a young person when I was a teacher in the 1970s. I was trying to explain inflation, recessions, depressions, currencies, and other economic subjects to my teenage students, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. So I began writing them letters. I'd write one letter for each topic and let the whole class edit the letter over and over until the students had taught me how to explain the topic in a way they found easy to understand. They'd say, "We don't understand this," or "What does that mean?" And I'd have to keep rewriting until they got it. I'd been told by my college economics professors that these subjects were much too difficult even for adults, much less teenagers. But I believe the only reason any subject is hard to learn is that it's not taught well. I think it's but a slight exaggeration to say anyone can learn anything if the teacher and the learning environment are suitable to that person's needs. One of the first lessons my students taught me was to avoid abstractions and stick to the concrete. A person's ability to remember examples that are concrete is vast. And if I was going to teach abstractions, I might as well stay home because the students would not remember them. I wanted to teach things that would stick with them for the rest of their lives. Here's another thing. Virtually all schools everywhere on earth are owned or controlled by government agencies. So almost everyone in the world graduates from high school or college holding views that are strongly statist, and most don't even know there are views that are non-statist. To help introduce you to what you were never exposed to in high school or college, Uncle Eric is a non-statist who sees things through the eyes of Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Patrick Henry, and the other American intellectual leaders of 1776. Uncle Eric does his best to stay absolutely faithful to the principles of 1776, whether discussing economics, geopolitics, law, business, or any other subject. The Uncle Eric books might be your only chance to be exposed to a non-statist view. Nowhere in these books will you find a kind word for Karl Marx or Lenin or Stalin or any of their admirers or their ideas and convoluted schemes that dominate our lives today. I think you'll be very surprised at the wisdom of the American founders, especially the wisdom found in the third Uncle Eric book, Whatever Happened to Justice. I think this book may be what I was put on earth to write, and I can assure you a lot of people don't want you to read it. The first collection of letters I wrote back in the 1970s eventually became the Uncle Eric book called Whatever Happened to Penny Candy. And over a period of about 23 years, it was followed by another 10 books, all of them dedicated to helping people learn what they probably did not get in high school or college. I've often heard people who have college degrees, including master's degrees and PhDs in economics, say, "You know, I read those Uncle Eric books, and for the first time in my life, I understand economics." The Uncle Eric books can be read in any order, but I believe you'll get the most from them if you read them in the suggested sequence, which you can find at the top of this page. The first Uncle Eric book, which is called Uncle Eric Talks About Personal Career and Financial Security, explains how a person's mind works, how the individual understands his or her world. Uncle Eric shows how Chris can recognize information that's important and bypass that which isn't to make better decisions and achieve success. The second Uncle Eric book, Whatever Happened to Penny Candy, is a fast, clear, and fun explanation of the economics Chris needs to adapt to our fast-changing world. Subjects include inflation, investment cycles, velocity, money demand, recessions, business cycles, and many others. The third book, Whatever Happened to Justice, is about law. There's hardly anything more important to your life than law, and Uncle Eric helps Chris explore America's legal heritage, including crucial subjects such as contract law and property law. In the fourth book, Are You Liberal, Conservative, or Confused?, Uncle Eric explains political labels such as liberal, conservative, left, right, moderate, Democrat, Republican, socialist, libertarian, and others. He describes their economic policies and the plans their promoters have for your money. The fifth book, Ancient Rome, How It Affects You Today, explores what has happened in the past when societies have become warfare welfare states and asks, are we headed for fascism like ancient Rome? History may never repeat exactly, but Uncle Eric shows that it repeats closely enough to learn valuable lessons from it. The sixth Uncle Eric book is called Evaluating Books. What would Thomas Jefferson think about this? Most books, magazines, news stories, TV, and movies are slanted against the principles of America's founders because that's what the writers were taught in high school and college. The sixth book explains how to identify the bias so that you can make informed choices about what to read or view. The seventh book, The Money Mystery, is about a hidden force that affects your career, business, and investments. This force is called velocity, which means the speed at which money changes hands. You will meet very few brokers, financial advisors, or other financial experts who understand velocity, especially its 3 stages, but you will understand after Uncle Eric explains. The eighth book is The Clippership Strategy. Conventional wisdom says that when the government expands the money supply, money descends on the economy in a uniform blanket, but this is wrong. The money is injected into specific locations, causing hotspots or cones. Uncle Eric explains a system for tracking and profiting from the cones and for avoiding being a victim when a cone collapses. The ninth Uncle Eric book, called The 1,000-Year War, explains the 10th century war in the Mideast the U.S. government entered into on the side of the Europeans about 2 centuries ago. First published in 1999, the 1,000-Year War predicted the events that began unfolding on September 11, 2001, when the World Trade Center came down. Uncle Eric presents dozens of maps and other illustrations that show what's been happening. You will be amazed. The 10th and 11th books are World War I, The Rest of the Story and How It Affects You Today, and World War II, The Rest of the Story and How It Affects You Today. Uncle Eric explains how the explosion of the battleship Maine in Havana Harbor in 1898 was the beginning of a chain reaction that led to the 2 world wars, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and today's so-called War on Terror. More importantly, Uncle Eric explains how and why this chain reaction is continuing and why it will be a major factor in Chris's future. Now let me give you a warning. After you finish reading the Uncle Eric books, you will know what others don't. You'll often make a comment at a party, and a crowd of eager listeners will gather around to hear the fascinating things you're explaining. You will have to decide how many of their bubbles you will burst. Will you tell them everything you know, or will you hold some back? So that's a quick overview of the Uncle Eric books. Now
I'm excited.
On to the videos.
Well, before we go, we need to recognize somebody in our audience who is a newly published American Mission author.
Yay, Kayla. Such a great article, too, guys.
So she's going to have to open her mouth. We invited you up to speak.
She's going to kill you, Chris.
Her article is up in the Jumbotron.
All right. Well, I tried.
She's probably busy with the kids. It's that time of night.
Oh,
It's the
that's
witching
true.
hour.
She's in Idaho.
That's right.
So anyway,
All right. Well, I
please.
appreciate everybody coming.
Oh, we just got trash in here.
The trash. We're just shutting down. I appreciate everybody coming. Hope everybody learned something tonight, and we'll meet us back here tomorrow night. Next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. I plan on starting some of these Uncle Eric books. If you want to, join me and get a copy and read along, great. If not, we'll be here to go through them because I think that learning it from this angle is going to be pretty neat.
Please provide a link. Thank you.
Yeah, we should see if we can get those in our store.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
I like it. I will work on that this week, and I will put a link in the bubble after we leave. Okay, Kelly. It's Richard Mayberry.
Thank you.
For anybody that doesn't want to come back in and grab the link, it is Richard Mayberry, and it is the Uncle Eric books. There's 11 of them.
Google's your friend.
Well,
go team.
Thank you for coming,
Which
everybody.
is-
And don't forget to visit AmericanMission.com. Go ahead.
Hope you feel better, Chris.
Thank you. God bless you all.